Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, a monthly or bi-monthly podcast about video games. This is episode number 6 for March 2011, and my name is Sean.
My name is Frank.
My name is Andrew.
And coming up on this episode, we've got a review of Dead Space 2. We're also going to be talking about some news, including the passing of the Guitar Hero franchise. And in Hot Button, we're going to be tackling trailers versus gameplay. Which one do you prefer, and which one should be used to market a video game?
Is that actually a debatable topic?
I think it is. It's been a while. I think the last episode we did the middle of January. So here we are, almost the middle of March. Some time has passed. We've been busy.
Very busy.
Keeping busy. And we're already way behind on releases, but we'll see what we can do here. I'm kind of excited to talk about Dead Space, and I know a lot of people have been enjoying the game, so we'll get to that in just a bit. I guess I should mention we don't have an actual website yet for Game Junk, but I did just the other day register GameJunkPodcast.com. So we have the domain. I'm going to try and set something up. I might just set up like a blogger thing or something for now, just so we have something that's sort of separate where people can discuss and quickly find back episodes. But as always, you can also check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/GameJunk. So, you guys been playing some games?
We have.
That's all I do, man. And watch movies.
Well, we have some junk mail as well that we're going to be getting to a little bit later. But let's just jump into some news then. And I guess we should probably start with something that it already feels like old news, but it's a big one. Guitar Hero and I guess DJ Hero as well, if I'm not mistaken, are both dead in the water.
Crime.
And True Crime. Yep. So I guess at some sort of, I don't know if it was like a business meeting or if it was an actual press conference, but Activision basically announced that the next installment of Guitar Hero, which was in development for this year, is canceled. And basically there's nothing planned for this series for the foreseeable future. I guess they were going to finish off with some downloadable content, and then that was going to be it. And this kind of ties into something we talked about 2 episodes ago, which was, I believe we talked about Harmonix. No, we talked about Viacom selling Harmonix. And some other stuff has happened since then as well, because Harmonix had some major layoffs, and they are, of course, the developers of Rock Band. So we already kind of have been talking about this and predicting about this, you know, that the music and rhythm game genre is kind of dying. How did this happen, and is it actually dead? What do you guys think?
I think really they killed it just to make way for their new epic title, Dance Hero. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did.
That's going to take the world by storm.
I did actually hear that. I think for January, like dance games were like by far the biggest sellers or something like that. And of course, it's part of that is because of the Kinect, Microsoft Kinect, but.
And that's the only game out for Kinect.
Yeah.
No, but even on the Wii, that Just Dance game is a phenomenon.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The ladies love it.
So I guess it's not really fair to say that rhythm games are dead. Just music games specifically, it seems.
Yep. They're not dead to me, first of all.
You will continue to buy.
I still play them all the time.
Any game.
And I won't be buying any because I already own every one, both versions, on each console. And I'm not joking. Like,
and platinum both.
No, I can't do that. But like, if I've already got all the trophies or achievements on Rock Band 2 on Xbox, I'm not going to play it on that. Just switch over to PS3. Might as well be getting some trophies while I'm doing it, right?
That's
so,
true.
Regardless, I played one this week. I played them last week. I'll be playing them for a while. Sucks that I'm not going to get as many new songs. But, you know, it's not the end of the world.
I did read, I think on IGN, or it was in an IGN podcast or something, that it's just this year's though. Apparently, there's still like next year's version still in development. It hasn't been canceled.
I don't think that's true.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure they said that. Like I'm looking at one article here.
I think they just said indefinitely. No.
Yeah, they said the return of the Guitar Hero franchise is unlikely in the near future.
It'll come back at some point.
So in Activision terms, it's like 6 months.
Maybe.
Now I've been trying to find like the Squire guitar for Rock Band that's finally been released. So I've been trying to track one of those down, but no dice yet. It's only at Best Buy in the States, so
it's still hard to find, eh?
Yeah.
Well, so you're not tired of them then?
No.
You're still excited about every new one that would come out, and
yep.
Huck City, how do you feel?
I didn't buy Rock Band 3. I've never bought a Guitar Hero game. I've only bought Rock Band 1 and 2, so I really don't care that much. I really only played them as like party games. I rarely ever sat down by myself or just with one other person and played them. So it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, Activision pretty much fucked it up, right?
They just
killed it.
It kind of sucks because, you know, I hate the business side of things and everything in life, and they pretty much saturated the market, so they probably made the most money on it. And the people who did it right, the Rock Band people, you know, only one release every few years and having DLC kind of push things forward, they probably didn't make as much money because they limited their releases. Although I guess they had Beatles Rock Band and some of the other ones, but still, like Activision just bled that thing dry, and it's done. They struck while the iron was hot, so to speak, and
I like to
now it's done.
I like to refer to Activision's business model as something they've never learned. You know, you can shear a sheep many times, but fleece them only once. You know, I think they've never really learned that. They just skin the sheep and then they're screwed.
Then eat the sheep.
Yeah, they eat it.
I'm all for that.
Then try to sell you the bones.
But yeah, I guess, I mean, the comparisons to the Tony Hawk franchise be the same thing, really.
Oh, I'm a big fan of the Ride series.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I'm always whipping away on my little skateboard.
I don't believe you. But, you know, I mean, I've definitely grown a little tired of the music games. Like, I still find that, you know, at parties and get-togethers, they still, you know, the games still come out.
I'll say this. And all the times I've played Rock Band with you in my life, which would take more than one hand to count.
Yeah.
I've never seen you turn down an opportunity to play an instrument.
Well, exactly.
And someone who is sick of the game, I would think would be like, I'm okay. I'm just gonna.
But what I'm saying is, I did used to play a lot on my own, and I'd try and get through the game and get the achievements and things like that, and that quickly, I don't know if it's just because I had like 2 or 3 games that I hadn't got through yet, and it was just like, well, I've got too many now to play, so whatever. But you know, in that sense, I guess there was a bit of fatigue involved for me. But yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I still think that they could have paced themselves a little better, and I don't know, I guess tried to maybe innovate a little more from one installment to the next.
I think what I really hate the most is the DLC is so similar. Like, even the next week, it's 2 more police tracks. Like, mix it up a bit. Like, how many Bob Marley fucking songs do you need on Rock Band?
Well,
it's a joke. Like, they just, the same bands over and over again. Like, give the people something new. Like, recently on Guitar Hero, tossed out some fucking sweet Manson songs. Playing those things nonstop. Loving life. That's not a sarcastic statement for the listeners either. I'm loving it. Playing it every weekend. Just breathe a little fresh air into these songs. Like the next, what's another band that they use constantly on Rock Band? Like Pearl Jam,
Foo Fighters. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. And I mean, that's part of the thing is, you know, there was excitement every time a new game came out because you'd be like, oh, what songs are going to be on it? But I mean, pretty much everything's available now for the most part. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
They'll probably just save it up and release like like a U2 version or a Led Zeppelin version is probably going to be
Yeah.
the next thing that comes once they reboot it.
And it'll have like a dance element involved too.
Maybe.
Add a dancer to the band, like maybe Mighty Mighty Boss Tones rock band.
Maybe a trumpet next time. A triangle.
I like it. Okay, so let's move on and talk about something else, which, you know, when this news hit, it was worth talking about, but now it's, well, the 3DS is actually coming out in like 2 weeks, but
isn't that crazy? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And I think it's out in Japan already.
Yeah, it is. So, but back in January, I believe it was announced, the release date was announced, the price was announced, which is going to be $249 US, and they had the initial lineup of games that will be launching with it. Now, I'm trying to see here, like, it's so confusing, I find, whenever a new system comes out, because they'll say, you know, there's a launch window, and these are the launch window games, but you never know, like, which games you can actually buy on the day of the release. Now, I know one of them is Pilot Wings, right?
I think they've solidified the actual release day games.
All right, let me see if I can find them here, but...
From Nintendo, it's Pilot Wings, that submarine game. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Is the Star
yeah.
Fox coming out? No, I don't
Not
think
on
that's
release day,
big.
no.
Yeah. Mario?
No.
So,
And then a bunch of Ubisoft titles like Rayman 3D. And Sega has Monkey Ball 3D. There's Street Fighter from Capcom. Oh, Nintendogs is the other Nintendo title.
right. So, there's that stuff. There's, I guess, some people have been talking about the fact that I think, is Netflix coming to the
Yes.
3DS?
Yeah, that was just announced yesterday or a couple days ago.
For real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
And, you know, there are going to be movies available for the 3DS. And I heard some people talking about, I don't know if it was at GDC or something. What was the one before that? DICE? I don't know. Somewhere they were showing off like some trailers for some upcoming 3D movies, and people said it actually looked pretty impressive. So what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, are you going to pick this up, you know, day one, or what are you thinking?
Day one. Done deal.
Big surprise.
Done deal. I almost bought a DSi XL yesterday. Like,
Oh boy.
Just to get in the mood for some handheld
to play
Nintendo.
to play Pokemon on, but like literally, I'm going to play it for 2 weeks and then I'm going to buy this thing. So thankfully, I cooled that fire, but I don't know. I'm excited personally.
Well,
Not so much for the launch window games, although like Street Fighter's getting awesome reviews, and I'm kind of curious with that submarine game. And I'll definitely pick
Steel
up.
Diver, is that the name of it?
Yeah. And I will definitely pick up Pilot Wings. Like, I really like Pilot Wings 64, and to me, the biggest problem with that game was in some of the flight things. It's really tough to judge depth. So I think the 3DS is a perfect platform for that stuff.
Yeah.
See, like I'm interested in some of this stuff. Like a Star Fox game in 3D sounds cool, but it's just a remake of the N64
Of the best game ever.
Yep. That game is
It's
good.
pretty amazing. Like, I'd rather they remade that than tried to make a new one,
Yeah?
to be honest. Yeah.
All right. Well, I haven't actually played Star Fox 64, so
Oh,
it probably
you're in
doesn't
for a
really matter
treat,
for
yeah.
me.
Ever
but-
played that game? Oh man.
No,
I used to play, when we talk about video game music combinations,
yeah.
I remember playing Star Fox 64 till the wee hours of the morning, crushing out the Aerosmith 9 Lives album. Specifically, Sweet Taste of India, track 5, or 4. Oh man, that thing.
I can't say if that goes well or not, but
Oh, it's a perfect match, especially in the submarine level. Yeah,
yeah.
no, yeah, you can't do no better.
So for the 3DS, I don't know if I'll pick it up on day one. I might try to wait out for a price cut, but I have a feeling if everyone buys it, that price cut will be a long time.
Now the biggest decision in my life right now is whether to buy the black one or the greenish blue one.
That's a pretty big decision.
Like I naturally would stray towards black, but that greenish blue, I can't tell from the pictures, but it seems kind of like the Hornets, which is like, it might be a little too green. So I think I'm going to go black. But
what if they released like New Orleans Hornets Special Edition 3DS?
Any price. No content. But like some teams, like there's a Seattle Mariners themed Nintendo DS.
Oh, yeah?
Because like Nintendo's in Seattle, and then they were the first stadium that had like you could order, like you could connect with your DS, like order food, get stats during the game. They had like this whole thing. It's pretty awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, so I mean, for me, when it comes to these kinds of things, it's always about the games. It's always about what games will I be able to play.
Yeah, but
I
know you, bro.
Well, there's one thing
that stuff on the system software is what is going to get your dick hard.
I was going to say, I've heard some interesting things about the augmented reality games that come with it, and that's cool. I could see myself seeing that and picking it up for that. But like when I look at the list of stuff, what I'm interested in, Kid Icarus, which it says June 2nd, so that's not too far away. I'm kind of thinking Zelda. That's one remake I would potentially play. And then there's a Resident Evil game, but it's just like one of the mini games sort of fleshed out into like a full game, which I'm still not sure if that's going to be worth picking up.
And Metal Gear, I'm kind of excited for. It's a remake of Snake Eater, I think, but
yeah,
I'm down with that.
But I think this system, more than any other, is really going to be one of those things where it's like you're going to go to the store or you're going to have a friend and you're going to try it and you're going to see it, and that's going to be what sells it. Because you can read about it and you can watch game trailers and whatever, but until you actually see the 3D effect and sort of see how cool that is.
I remember actually being like that with the PSP.
Yeah?
Like I really didn't have any interest in one. And then I was going with some people to a Raptors games, and one of the guy's kids had a PSP. I'm like, oh, that thing looks fucking good.
You're just drooling over it.
I saw the screen, and I'm like, that thing looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I
was the same
had
way.
to have one.
I had a roommate in university that had one, and that sold me. I never had any interest, and then I saw his, and I was blown away.
Well, we'll see. I mean, perhaps the next episode may have some serious 3DS talk, but
I think for me, actually, on the 3DS, like I'm currently a Netflix subscriber, and if they start pushing out 3D movies through Netflix,
whoa!
Now I'm pretty sure that
crazy.
I'm pretty sure that is not.
I'm not saying that's been announced. I'm just saying if they start doing that.
Yeah, but I think the amount of data that you have to stream with something that's in 3D.
I bet it's less than what you normally stream.
Yeah,
like the amount on a DS screen is less than it would be to
it's pretty low res
to an iPhone.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I've always wondered how Netflix works. Like if you're streaming something on your iPhone as opposed to on like a game console, does it actually scale that down and only stream
the resolution it sends?
I think so.
Yeah. Does it?
I think so.
I mean, that would make sense, but
if you watch it in like a browser window on your computer, even if you resize the window, it'll change the compression.
Because I'm always wondering about it because the bandwidth issues here, and it's like, well, can I watch 2 movies on my iPhone and only one on my console, or like I don't know how that would work, but I guess we should keep talking about more portable gaming because Sony announced their PSP follow-up, which they are calling the NGP, Next Generation Portable. And we've also had our first, the official announcement of what was thought to be the PlayStation phone, and it's actually called Xperia Play, which is a Sony Ericsson product.
But that's just like a PSP with a phone, right?
Right. So that's not the next generation PlayStation. So, the NGP has a lot of stuff built into it. Do you guys remember what the release date was on this thing?
No.
I heard late this year.
Yeah, sometime this year, but it's not.
Probably October or November, I would think.
Yeah. So I'll just read off all the stuff that is on this thing. It's got a touch screen, 2 cameras, dual analog sticks, motion sensors, gyroscope, accelerometer, GPS, Bluetooth, and a touchpad on the back of the device as well, which is pretty weird. I'm not quite sure what that would be used for yet.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's the best. Like, that's the thing that
awesome.
I want it for.
That's the thing that makes it different, but
Yeah, like on an iPhone, my fingers are always like, I'm sure it would feel the same on the back, and there'd probably be some kind of feedback on the screen to indicate where your fingers are and stuff like that. Like, to me, that's perfect. That's the next step for portable gaming.
I don't know. Like, to me, it kind of
Like,
reminds
if I'm
me of
aiming
when
where I'm shooting on the back with my finger, you're gonna get used to it real quick, Sean. You're really gonna like it.
that could be an interesting way of aiming or something. I could see that. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when the DS first was announced and everyone was like, 2 screens, what the, like, why would you ever need that? And then they did some pretty cool stuff with it. So this is kind of one of those sort of mystery things where it's like, what are people going to do with it? But to me, like, when I see that huge list of all the stuff that's built into this, it's like they don't know where portable gaming is going to go over the next few years. So let's just throw everything into this device and we've got it covered. Which, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I mean, I feel like, Nintendo's always been really good at sort of picking one thing and saying, we're going to innovate with this one new thing, and that's what they focus on. And this is kind of like, we're just throwing everything at you. And
Now, I'm looking at the picture there.
yeah,
All the things we talked about, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet or not. Does the NGP have trophies?
I believe it does.
Which is very exciting, where
Yeah.
I come from.
Where you come from, yeah. I mean, I've been wondering for a while why the PSP doesn't have
Yeah, I know.
trophies. Because
Me too. You and me both, dog.
the OS looks very similar to the PlayStation OS, and it's like, but it just doesn't have trophies.
I think it's the
don't know.
profile stuff. Like,
Yeah,
the saving system is not really tied to that on the PSP.
So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
And I think from a development point of view, I've read that Sony's really been trying to create they call it an SDK.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it too.
And basically it's a software development kit, and that will let you work really easily between the NGP and the PS3. So if you're making a PS3 game, it sounds like they're going to make it really easy to just downscale all the textures and stuff, and then somehow easily convert that into an NGP game.
And I think that's kind of fitting in with their whole model of like cloud saves and digital distribution. You'll buy one version of the game that works on your PS3 and your NGP. Your saves exist on the internet. That's perfect. Like, that's amazing.
I think it's kind of what they're trying to do with the PS1 titles right now and the PSP, right? Because you can download a PS1 title to your PSN store, play it on your PS3, or download it to your PSP and play it there, right? So they're just trying to do that with actual
right. But the next step is what they're doing, right? Like right now, if you do that, it's different save files. You don't keep progress between the games and stuff. Like the next step is one version that's the same no matter where you play it.
Yeah, and now I've read some stuff that some people were saying that the hardware, the NGP, is good enough to actually match PS3 games. Which
They've backed up on that a little.
Not true.
Yeah,
but I mean, maybe they could have sort of a lower res version of these games.
I've heard similar things to what Andrew said. That they make it very easy to move from PS3 to PS or NGP.
Speaking of the cloud, did you guys read about the PlayStation Plus subscribers get cloud saves?
Yes.
Starting, I think,
today. Yeah, it came out yesterday. I haven't tried it yet. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah,
like that's
let me know.
That's a reason for me. Like, if I was buying a Blu-ray player for my bedroom, that's another reason for me to get a PS3. Right? Like, I can play the same game, continue where I was at different places in my house, and I could play it at work, play it on the shitter, whatever.
The cloud, man. It's all about the cloud.
Fucking cloud's amazing.
Now, two other things I want to say about the NGP. Number one, we don't know what the price is yet. it's kind of an important detail, I think.
Maybe a game junk contest. Guess the price.
Yeah,
the retail price of the NGP.
What do they win?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Not an NGP.
Red on the
air. So I mean, they're going to be competing against the 3DS, which is at $250. Obviously, not kind of different products, but it's going to be more than that, I would expect. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is the big thing that will definitely sell me on an NGP, an Uncharted game. They were already showing demos of an Uncharted game that's in progress, so that is a very tempting thing right there. Any other thoughts on the NGP or the Xperia Play?
No.
I think the Xperia Play is already available right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
no interest.
Now, if it was the NGP with the phone, would you be interested?
Very interested.
Yeah? All right, so last bit of handheld news. There's a device that was in development that we talked about a few episodes ago called the Panasonic Jungle. And I'm already kind of forgetting exactly what it was. I know it was kind of supposed to be kind of like a laptop that would allow you to play MMOs on the go, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Huck City?
I think that's right, yeah.
And so they've announced this month that it's canceled. The whole thing is done. And I don't know exactly if they've given specific reasons. I think they just basically said some changes in the handheld market caused them to discontinue development on it, which basically means Sony came out with the NGP and they were just like, fuck it, like there's no point. But I don't know, maybe testing wasn't going well on it or something. Not a huge surprise, I don't think. I mean, it was going to be another one of those products that came out and flopped very quickly, I think. So there's that. And then I guess the last thing we wanted to talk about, after all this discussion about portable handheld systems and the fact that Sony and Nintendo are rolling out new systems for the handhelds this year, what's going on with their next generation consoles? And I guess there's finally some development. I mean, I'm sure there's been some stuff happening behind closed doors, but publicly they are beginning development on this stuff. Is that right, Huck City?
Well, no, I don't know for sure, but there was reports that Microsoft's been hiring positions for hardware engineers for work on, a next-gen console type thing. So it looks like they're trying to ramp up to either start developing or continue developing or, kind of like make prototypes of a next-gen console. So, I mean, it's probably a couple years out, if not more than a couple. But, I mean, it's kind of, from like a development standpoint, I kind of almost don't want next-gen to happen, even though it has already been.
I'm the opposite. I am ready.
Yeah.
It's time.
I don't know. I'm enjoying my PS3 with the Blu-ray player and all that. I don't need another system just yet.
Yeah, I don't see the PS3 or PS4 coming out for another 3 years at least, probably 4.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Xbox. I could see coming out in the next year or two, or announced in the next year.
And then that's another thing to think about, because really, for the most part, once Sony got into it and Microsoft got into it, they've kind of been releasing on the same schedule, more or less, other than that 1 year break. But let's say Sony doesn't release for 4 years, 5 years, and Microsoft releases in 2. Now there's a 3-year gap. I just don't know how that'll impact not only sales for one or the other platforms, but for developers. Now you're almost developing. Do you go all next gen, or do you just stay current gen because you've already built up that tech and go with that? It's I think it would be a real divide. It'd be a tough decision. I'm sure people will be forced to go next gen by publishers, but
I mean, it's fine for people who are first party developers or something that are just aiming for one console, but it's the people who have to develop a different version of the game for each
Yeah, for a lot of
that gets
third-party
screwed.
developers, I would expect them to, like, for that first, let's say the PS3 doesn't come out for 3 years, you know, the next version of, like, let's call it the Xbox 3 or whatever, that version of the game is almost going to be identical to the other version with, like, better textures, maybe some higher polygon models and stuff like that, but really the same game with, you know, comparatively, like, a slightly better look and maybe quicker load times, but I can't see third-party developers making two different versions.
Yeah. And like one of the rules of thumb is you always develop for the lowest, quality system first and then go to the higher one and just make it better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too if the Wii, if there's no successor to the Wii and that still ends up being the lowest platform, and then you get some other next gen system that's like another jump ahead, that's going to be an insane gap to have to
for sure.
deal with. But I don't know. I mean, Dead Space 2 is on 2 discs on the Xbox 360, and when I start seeing stuff like that right away, I'm thinking, how much longer till another console? I don't know. It just seems like once you start hitting the limits of what that console can do, you got to start planning for the next one. But this has been the longest life cycle for any generation.
Yeah, I just find it so weird we haven't even heard. Like, this is the first, like, flutter of information, of what's about to happen. And
I think it's because this generation, there's been so much focus on, like, online play and, like, building, you know, these infrastructures for, like, Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network and all that stuff. Like, there's so much work going into that they're not as concerned about the new hardware. And, I mean, I don't know. They may have reached a point
and even
where
a lot of the best games are, you know, not that technically demanding. Like, a lot of the arcade games and PSN games, like, those are popular games, and it doesn't take a next-generation console to make those. And for third-party developers, it's a lot easier to focus your efforts on a game like that than some...
And cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. Some $30 million game that's going to take 4 years. Like, the opportunity for games like that, I think we're just going to find is less and less.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a step in the direction against, like, fast console generations.
Yeah, and
especially when you have to spend so much time. Like, it's only when a new console comes out, it's only going to take that much longer to build up your tech around that, right? So it's only going to be longer. Like, you don't want to spend 2 years developing your tech and then have to just throw it away, right? Especially when it takes so long. Like, I'm pretty sure, you know, back in the NES days and sprites, you know, that was all, you know, there wasn't much to that. But now with, you know, more cores and more memory and all that stuff, you have to make your code pretty flexible, pretty scalable to handle everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other thing is there was this whole sidetrack into, like, the motion control stuff, which is still happening, and I mean, there's just been so much sort of, like, like lateral movement as opposed to just moving forward technically. And I mean, I remember the jump from, like, you know, Xbox to Xbox 360, and a lot of people were arguing that, you know, the difference visually isn't that huge, and I'm wondering if this is going to be even less noticeable. But and then again, I mean, there's the whole 3D issue, which I know there's going to be PlayStation 3 games. I mean, there are some already, but that does the Xbox 360 do 3D or no?
I know they've, like, shown demos of games. Like, I think Gears of War has been shown in 3D.
Right.
But I don't know if
I guess the storage format would be the issue, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe Avatar was released in 3D.
Yeah?
Yeah, there was a 3D mode if you had a 3D TV.
Interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess all that stuff's still a ways off, but probably over the next couple of years we'll start hearing about it, and people will start getting pissed off because they have to start thinking about buying something new, but that's how it goes.
I mean, don't be too pissed off. Like you said, this is the longest cycle ever, so deal with it.
And I think what you said,
I want to buy some right now.
And I don't know if graphics will really improve that much like you were saying, but I think what'll happen is there'll just be more processors to do work, right? So you'll be able to have crazy physics going off, crazy particle effects.
Yeah.
Just a lot more of the finer details that you probably don't even notice right now happen, but help make the game a lot more realistic. So I think that's where most of the focus is going to go, just, making it more breadth, I guess.
Right. Okay, so I guess we'll move on, and we'll get into this month's review, Dead Space 2. It's developed by Visceral Games, published by EA, and of course it's the sequel to the best-selling Dead Space. Why don't I throw it over to you first, Frank?
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Dead Space 2?
Best-selling of what?
What?
You said the best-selling Dead Space?
Yeah. Oh, it didn't do well, the first one?
Oh, okay. Just it sold well. Never mind. Continue. I thought you were comparing it to something.
No.
All right, good.
Well, I'm a pretty big fan of this game there, boys. I would say my interest waned towards the end of the game. I was really into it for the first 8 chapters or so. Not a lot changed from the first one, and I love the first one too, and I just find like the secondary fires and the weapons are really intriguing, and there's enough enemy variety. Like, it's an intense game. Always kind of kept me interested. I honestly didn't give a fuck about the story. There seems to be a lot of story elements, but I found like the voice of Isaac, like I didn't even know I was talking sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like that, he felt really unimportant, and it didn't bother me that much. I still love the game, but I really didn't care about the story at all. I knew there was this marker. It makes bad things. Must stop marker. But a few things, like the lighting is awesome, and like it helps create the atmosphere so much. Really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the big things that I think even the first one was kind of heralded for. But
yeah, I think it's way better in this game.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
And, they definitely improved the zero-G sections, like way more fun this time. Though the bad things I would say, they're like version of QuickTime, where it's just like tapping the one button a bunch. Really lame. Like, get rid of that shit. I could care less. Like, I can tap a button over and over again. It's just like I have to pay attention to do that.
Well, like where are you talking about?
Like there's 3 or 4 times in the game, like you're chasing after someone, and you grab their hand and you have to tap X a bunch of times to get them to pull you in.
Right.
Like,
but fuck off.
Like, little things grab onto you.
Yeah,
that one's not as bad. I'm okay with that.
I was going to say,
I mean,
that
during some
stuff
cinematic moments, there's a few one-offs where like it's really inconsistent, and then all of a sudden you have to tap X. Like,
yeah.
What the
I
fuck?
died a few times at those.
And it's definitely not, at the level of something like God of War 3, where there's like, all these different prompts you have to follow.
Yeah, but that's something they establish at several points throughout the game, right? Like, it's something you're always expecting.
Right.
And did you find that sometimes the like tap X button was even off screen for a bit?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I wasn't really paying that close attention, and all of a sudden it came back on screen, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, just fucking... just get rid of that. Like, who's looking at that and saying, "Oh, I'm glad we put this in. That is a great idea." Like, just nonsense. And then, I know, Huck, you had similar feelings, and Dwight, you've yet to get there, but the last boss battle is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
I probably spent 45 minutes fighting with that.
Me too.
And I die every 2 to 3 minutes.
And the reason why you die every time is that it's so poorly designed.
Yep.
It is completely different than anything in the rest of the game. The rest of the game, it's like slower paced enemies. It's about planning, picking places to shoot on their bodies, switching weapons. All that gets thrown out the window for the final boss. It's just...
A few times I actually died because I ran out of ammo.
Oh, exactly. And then a couple times, I'd be running forward to get away. during an in-between phase, and she would just pop up in front of me, and I was dead, and it was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Oh, yes. Spoiler alert, by the way.
I guess, yeah, but...
Yeah, I mean,
that's my biggest problem with the game, is the final boss, but...
I just, like, I haven't, like you said, I haven't got there yet. I'll talk about that in a second, but I do hate when games... I understand sometimes why they do it, but when the final boss fight, like, throws everything you've learned out the window because they want to do something new, and then it's just frustrating as hell because you're like, well, I've built up all these skills throughout the game to use, and then now I can't use them. And
I don't mind that sometimes in the case where, in a lot of those cases, they'll make it kind of easy, I think, and it's more about spectacle than gameplay,
right?
Which is okay, but in this case, it's still like just as hard, if not harder, because of the fact they made it different. Sorry, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, like, the only reason I can see for them doing that, like, totally off the wall, like, style for that final boss is that you're kind of like, they're portraying it like you're going into his, like, crazy brain kind of thing, and it's kind of like hazy, and he doesn't really know what's going on. Like, so maybe you can explain it that way, that they're trying to say he's kind of going crazy. So
I think you can. I think they could have portrayed crazy with enemies that were like the ones you faced the whole game.
Sure. Well, those were like those little kid running things.
Not quite the same though. You never had that many.
No.
There was never that you could barely see them on the screen sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's an epic disaster of a final.
Actually, in order to beat that game, I had to go online and look up a guide.
Ouch.
So I was getting killed left, right, and center. Like, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I played for 15 minutes and died constantly, and then I was like, screw this. It was late at night. I was getting agitated.
I can't say I stooped that low, but I was getting a little frustrated.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, preparing for this show... And I mean, this is not always the most ideal way to play a game, I guess. But like knowing that we had kind of a deadline, and we were trying I'm trying to get through the game, and the last, I guess like you were saying, Frank, the first 8 chapters or so are great, and then it just becomes a real, like, this game really tried to make me hate it. And I think the difficulty level is a big issue, and I know I'm always the one whining about it. But I was playing on normal. I wasn't playing on anything crazy. And I think the biggest problem I had is not even so much that there's too many enemies or that the enemies are particularly difficult. It's the checkpoints and the save points. Like, there's multiple times where it's like there's this room where there's a wave of enemies, and it's like, okay, I see that I have to beat all of them. I just can't do it yet. And I try it over and over, and finally I beat them. And I'm like, all right, finally got past that. And then you get into another room, and it's like they throw more enemies at you, and then you die there, and you start way back at the beginning before the other wave. And that's when it pisses me off. That's when I get really annoyed and just want to turn it off.
I never really found that.
Yeah, I didn't find that quite as much, but I don't know. I was talking to a friend of the show, PC Money Public Cabarich.
He's been on the show before.
Yeah, and we were talking about pacing in games, and it's the hardest thing to do. And like, that's the one thing that impresses me so much about Uncharted, is how amazing the pacing is at, like, giving you new areas, just subtly changing the way the game looks so that, you're never bored. And because so much of this game is in like this kind of, sci-fi alien type environment,
narrow corridors.
Yeah, it really, like, I find it overstays its welcome. Like, it could have been shorter, and I don't think you would have lost too much of the game. Like, I know people out there want to get their value for a game and want a long game, but, I still don't think at the sake of the game you should just make a game longer for the sake of that.
Yeah.
And I do find this game does that. Like, some of the the balance of the length of the chapters is
so bad.
Completely off, right? And there is, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like, the one place that I finally thought there was a breath of fresh air was in Chapter 10, when you return to something from the first game. And I was like, okay, cool, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of got my second wind on the game, and I was really into it. And that kind of pushed me towards the end of the game. But I think if they would have introduced that maybe a few chapters earlier, like there's a whole plot point at the beginning of the game that really means nothing. It's almost like a separate story where that ship is chasing you, and like that kind of is meaningless in the plot of the game, I find.
I found that was like one of my biggest disappointments is I felt like their overall skill of telling a story was better. Like the cutscenes they had were like better portrayed what they were trying to portray. But the overall story arc of this game just sucked. Like it really didn't compel me. I think Frank, you mentioned it before. Like didn't really compel me to play it at all.
Yeah, the character of Isaac is just like an empty vessel to me. Like
yeah, exactly.
I could care less.
And when I was thinking back to like Dead Space 1 and you know how I kind of got the same feeling I think when I played Dead Space 1, but for a different reason. Like in this one I kind of got the feeling like, oh, I don't know if I really want to play this anymore. But it wasn't because, like, in the first game I got it because I think I was scared shitless. And, like, I just didn't really want to continue on. I didn't want to, like, get scared again out of that
Pussy.
corner or whatever. But then in this one it was more because, like, it was more just, like, waves of enemies. I rarely got scared in this game, other than if, like, a guy came up behind me that I couldn't hear. But I know, like, in this game, I just found, like, the chapters dragged on really long. I didn't really have a point. Like, at least in the first one, you know, they did that stupid dangling the carrot thing, but at least it was kind of interesting where you'd go to one area of the ship, fix something, then something else would break, you'd have to go to another area. You know, and it wasn't like they actually had a point for doing that. You could kind of see, like, it kind of made sense. Whereas this one, it was kind of just like, start at point A, you need to travel all the way to point B, and that's the end of the game, and we're going to put, you know, 10, 15 hours of gameplay in the middle.
And you can really see the difference in the environments, like when it works and when it doesn't. Like at the beginning of the game, you know, there's the first section's really cool. You know, you're in this operating room, and then you get to the gallery or the stadium of the operating room, and you know, It's got this whole, like, you're getting a sense of your surroundings, right? And then there's other parts later in the game, the game, where you're like, it's just the same. There's specifically one part that it's literally the same thing repeated 5 times. Like you're going down levels, and it's the same environment 5 times in a row. And it's like, what's the point? Like, and nothing really happens. Maybe once an enemy comes out. And to me, I like this game because I really love the mechanics, and I love the shooting mechanics. And to compare it to something like Alan Wake, like there's so many more weapons that I never really get bored of stuff. And the way the enemies are kind of different, that's another level of variety. And I could just play that all day. Like I never really got sick of that. And, you know, a story aside, I still find this game to be a ton of fun to play.
Yeah. When you play, do you buy almost every weapon that comes up?
No, not this time. I pretty much just used plasma cutter, contact beam, and line gun, and just upgraded those the whole time.
That's funny because I used basically the same 3. Like I used the plasma cutter. That's your default one, right?
Yeah.
And the pulse rifle, and then the line gun.
Oh, I like pulse rifle too.
And those were the only 3 guns I bought the whole game. And I think I bought the javelin gun, but I stopped using it.
I just like those guns the best. I don't know why. I think it's the lasers. I fucking love lasers.
Yeah. But those are the same guns from the first game, right? It's not like I didn't even try the new weapons.
I think that's why I picked those, though, too, because I liked them in the first game, and they were kind of like my trusty weapons that I would always use, so.
Yeah, I experimented with a few more of the weapons, but and I only played a little bit of the first game, but I find that that's one thing that's kind of frustrating in a way, is like there are a lot of weapons to choose from, but you know, you have this limited resource of money that you have to spend to get the weapons. Yeah. So you're really choosy about what you're going to spend it on, and then you have the other option of just upgrading the weapons you already have. So like I almost wish that maybe you didn't have to buy the weapons, you just got the weapons and you could play with each one.
Yeah, I do kind of like they don't cost a lot. Like the cost of a weapon is the same as a power node or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
right.
I don't know if you want to power up your stuff. Like when I got to the end of the game, I only had, I think, 2 things powered all the way up. and I spent almost all my money on power nodes.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the beauty of the game to me. Like, no matter how you do it, like, you're not fucked any way you do it. I think the only way you'd be fucked is if you didn't buy power nodes at all and didn't upgrade anything.
See, but I was wondering if the reason I was having trouble with the game is because I was picking the wrong weapons or stuff. But I was using mostly this, like, the two main ones you guys are, and then I also had the detonator mines sometimes, and didn't like the contact gun, but there was one other that I was using. I can't remember which one.
Ripper blades?
Yeah, I was using those. They were kind of cool. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, like, obviously we've been talking a lot about some of the problems with the game, and I don't want to go too much more into that because I think there's a lot of really good stuff that we still should touch on. But just to go back to what you were saying, Frank, about the level design and the environments and stuff like that. Like, I think the first game, from what I remember, a lot of people complained that it got repetitive because it was all on this ship, and it was just very similar environments. And I mean, I had the same complaint about like a lot of the Halo games and stuff. This one, early on, there's some awesome stuff. Like, I loved the Church of Unitology stuff.
Yeah, actually, that's awesome.
Amazing. And like the nursery area was really cool. And like, for that whole stretch of the game, it's like you're really interested in each of the places where you are and exploring, and that's pushing you through. And then it gets to just the boring corridors, and that's when it gets long and really just dull. And it's too bad. Like, I think this is one game that it peaks too early. And, a lot of times there's games where they save their best stuff for the end, and that's kind of a shame because a lot of people may never see that because not everyone finishes the game. But this is an example where sometimes they throw their best stuff early on, and then they just don't, they can't match up to that later on.
One other thing I want to say is amazing in this game is like the facial animations, particularly in the death sequences.
Yeah.
Like, every time I died, like, it was a joy to die most of the time, like, to watch this stuff. And even
it all seemed unique.
Yeah, exactly. And especially the final boss. Like, if you die during that, it is really awesome. Like, it actually...
almost disturbingly awesome.
Yeah, as angry as I was still like, well, at least I get to watch that again. That's pretty sweet. But...
yeah, the deaths are, like, by far and away the most... like, and there's been a lot of violent games that I've played, but this is by far the most gruesome deaths I've seen. And I think the fact is that they do something, and then they take it a step further, and it's like just when you think it's about to end, you get an extra limb pulled off or something.
And then, like, even
it's even different. If you
that's
die
true.
at the same spot, it'll be potentially a different death. It won't be like the same repetitive type of death necessarily.
And it all starts like the first time you're talking to that guy and he gets taken over by a necromorph, and like his neck stretches out and the thing comes through his mouth. Like, that is just awesome. And other than the deaths, they don't really use that a lot in the game that I can remember, and I think that might be a lost opportunity.
Yeah, but I think, like, comparing to like something like Uncharted, I found there was a lot of stuff in Dead Space where it's something, every level or every enemy, there's something special and unique about it that you're not going to see again in the game. And, I was a big fan of a lot of the zero-G stuff, too, like you were talking about. I thought that stuff was, just refreshing. And I hadn't played enough of the first game that I even knew there was zero-G stuff in it. So this was all totally new to me. But, yeah, it's something that seems like it would be really hard. It could be really hard to do. And could be really frustrating to play, but just having the button where you can orient yourself and the boosters, like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Actually, that was in the first game, that was one thing that really stood out for me because not really because of the mechanic itself, because of the sound design. You'd go out into the zero-G, like, empty space, and like all sound would cut off except for your breathing, and then all of a sudden, like, a guy would creep up on you. Now, normally you'd hear him coming. And out in zero-G, though, you didn't hear him coming at all because, there's no sound. And I felt that was really, like, underused in this game as, like, a scare tactic. and I was kind of surprised actually when I went out into zero.
Yeah, nothing ever happened.
I expected more, and it never happened.
Like there's those big like plant creatures almost, but that's it.
Yeah, that's right. And they only take the jump on you because they shoot those stupid things at you from so far away.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like for the most part, I found that the game is really good at anytime you kind of think you might get somewhere that's kind of safe for a minute, or you just anytime there's sort of a pattern that you think is emerging, it'll fuck with you and it'll change it up, and like something will come out of the wall and scare the crap out of you or whatever. Like I don't know, like Huck City, you're saying you weren't as scared in this game. I found out like there wasn't as much of a creepy atmosphere as something like, I don't know, Resident Evil 4, but I found there were more jump scares. And
yeah, but at the same time, I was always ready for them this time because they all came out of the same like panels on the wall.
Yeah.
So I basically had my gun drawn the whole time and was prepped for it.
That's true. I mean, yeah, you always know something's coming, something's around the corner. So,
and I think in the first one they did more things like, jump out of the ceiling, out of the floor. It wasn't quite always so obvious that. And then it got to the point where I just run around breaking all those grates because I was sure like something would jump out of them.
Right.
Frank talked about lighting before, and I think one other thing we need to mention is the sound design. I touched on it a bit, but the music and the sound effects, especially like the whispering sound effects that happen. I don't know if you guys played with the music up, but oh man, like that is probably one of the most scary things. Just like when you return to the place from the first one. I don't know if you guys noticed, but you start hearing like crying babies in the background.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Weird shit happening.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times there's just like it's a really good job of like you hear noises and you're like, is there something in the room with me? Is it like in the room beside me? Like as you're approaching a door, like you're always looking around because there's just always creepy noises and you don't know exactly where it's coming from. Yeah. Now, what did you guys think about the actual creature designs? Like, are you fans of that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, I would say I'm a fan.
They're all pretty similar to the first
one.
one.
Not much has changed. There's a few new things here and there, but
yeah,
I like it.
I don't know. I found that, like, I don't know if it's just that they're all kind of sort of similar. I mean, I guess there's different types of enemies, but for the most part, they all kind of, they're necromorphs and they have these, sort of insect-like limbs coming out of them. I don't know. I just, after a while, I was not that blown away by the interesting enemies that were coming at me anymore. But I guess, like, just to compare this to something like, I guess, Resident Evil 4, which would be sort of my, I don't know, what's the word?
Well, what I was told about this game is, from people who I think listen to some of the people from Visceral Talk at GDC and stuff, was like they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They picked a game that worked, and they picked Resident Evil 4 and tried to do a new take in a new universe. And I don't think you can argue that. Like
it's basically Resident Evil 4 meets Metroid, which is like kind of an ideal thing for me. I think,
and even a part you haven't gotten to yet is like similar to the steps Resident Evil took in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't say much. Like a pursuit aspect to it later on.
But yeah, I mean, I think like in terms of this as an entry in the survival horror genre, like I don't know if there's ever been a game that has made me want to get more out of my ammo than this game. I mean, granted, I mean, it's basically the same as all the Resident Evil series or whatever, but it's like you'd get to a point I'd find where I'd only have like a few, bullets left for this gun or that gun, and I'd hit a checkpoint, and it's like I'm thinking to myself, did I just screw myself because I don't have enough ammo here? But then it kind of forces you to be creative, right?
I would never shoot a guy until the item comes out. I'd always shoot them and then stomp them.
Yeah, right.
Until the item came out. So,
But I mean, like, that's part of the fun, I guess, of a survival horror game is when it forces you to be creative with your weapons, use the alt fires, and just find different ways of taking the enemies out. And I think it does a really good job of that. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's an awesome game. I just wish that, again, the pacing and the difficulty are the two things that just kind of bump it down.
I will say this, though. Once I finished the game, I started again on New Game Plus.
Yeah?
And I played through the first 2 chapters and was loving it again. So I think it really is more the content that suffers in the middle of the game.
Yeah. All right, any other thoughts on Dead Space 2?
I got a couple, actually. I thought the puzzles were pretty good in this one. There was like a couple. The first like big puzzle, I think you run across. It's got like some spinning rings and stuff in it.
Right. Yeah.
Do you guys recall that? I think it was chapter 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I did not know what to do at first. I was trying to like stop those rings with my kinetic thing or telekinesis, and it took me a while. But once I figured it out, it was fine. Like it made sense, and all the other ones seemed to make sense afterwards. And I thought, they did just enough where you had to think about it for a bit, but it was never really too hard where you got frustrated.
Yeah, I thought the puzzles were pretty good, actually. I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot of puzzles because, it is billed as a survival horror game, but I think they mix all the stuff up really well.
Yeah. The one mechanic I think they added, which I thought really helped, was the automatic stasis recharge. I don't know if you have any of those like stasis packs and your health packs. You can just hit, I think it was like circle or B or whatever, to use a health pack to refill your health rather than going to the menu.
Yep.
And also the same with the telekinesis thing. If you just fire it again, it'll automatically recharge.
But even then, I don't think in the first one your stasis would recharge automatically. Like you either had to find a recharge station or use a pack. In this one, it just recharges.
No. In this one, when you use it again and it recharges, it uses one of your packs automatically.
Yeah, but if you don't do that, like, it'll recharge on its own.
Does it?
Yeah, and if you upgrade your stasis, you upgrade how fast it comes back.
Oh.
So I was using stasis the whole game. That was the first thing I upgraded, was my stasis all the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I rarely used it.
So, like, it recharged all the time.
I found that in this game, too, it kind of like, it was good from chapter 1 to like 7 or 8, kind of like we mentioned. And then it like lulled huge, and then chapter 11 to like 13 or 14 was really good, I found. And then like that end just kind of killed me. I actually just kind of ran through the end.
Yeah, during the pursuit thing I was talking about, it was really frustrating.
I almost didn't shoot anything.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. So, I think that's it for me. Oh wait, I did try the Dead Space Extraction that was on the disc.
Yeah, so did I.
I played a couple levels of that. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I bought a PlayStation Move I was going to talk about and what we played, and I bought the sharpshooter, the gun, which this is compatible with, and I didn't actually end up using the sharpshooter for it, but I did use Move, and it was pretty fun. I think I will definitely try to play through the whole thing, and it's actually like, now that I found out what you were saying too, that the Xbox has 2 discs,
yeah,
like, the fact that the PlayStation's 1 disc and you get Dead Space Extraction seems like a no-brainer for me if I was picking between the 2 systems, which one to buy.
But you have to get the deluxe edition of the PlayStation 1 to get Extraction, don't you?
No.
Nope.
Really?
That's what I thought too, but there's another one that's even more deluxe. But even the base version just comes with
that's a pretty sweet deal. It's the same game that they had for the Wii, right?
Right.
Just ported for PlayStation Move.
And it's kind of...
That game actually provides good atmosphere. Because you don't have control of the camera, you feel even more confined than normally. So it's you don't have control of where you're looking, but at the same time it adds like a different kind of level of atmosphere to the game, I found.
And from the brief amount I played, like, it does some interesting things for an on-rail shooter. Like, I haven't played some of the later Resident Evil, like, on-rails games and stuff, but there was a lot of new stuff and a lot of fresh takes on that genre.
I can see playing that game with Move would be a lot better because I was just playing with a controller and I found that trying to like grab items was really hard to line up, and I'd spend a lot of time like trying to get it and missing a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that would be resolved a lot by using like the Move or even the Wii remote.
So has anyone played Dead Space for the iPhone or iPad?
No, sir.
Nope.
Interesting. I guess that's like a totally separate game as well. Like it's not just a remake of the first one. It's like something new. But all right, do you guys just want to give a rating out of 4 stars for Dead Space 2?
Sure do.
All right.
I'll give it a 3.5 out of 4.
Well, Frank, I'm going to agree with you on that one. 3.5.
I'm going to make it the trifecta. 3.5 out of 4.
Let's see if Sean's review changes when he gets to the final boss.
Be a 1 out of 4.
You're not allowed to step down your difficulty.
Oh, that's the first thing I'm doing now that I know you can.
I hope you can. I hope you can. I hope they lock it out.
We'll see.
I would love that shit if you had to play through on normal.
I probably would have given this game a 4 if that boss, like the last 2 chapters or 1 chapter, weren't so damn hard.
Yeah, I mean, early on I was thinking, this is 4 out of 4 easily. And then...
Yeah, me too.
Just kind of didn't quite live up to it. But all right, so we'll move on and talk about some other things we've played. I don't know how much you guys have. I got a few things.
You guys go first because you'll probably cover a lot of my stuff.
All right, well, why don't we start with actually DC Universe Online, since that's something we've all played a bit of. Not
a very small bit of.
Probably not enough to fully evaluate since it is an MMO, but not quite sure how we all decided we were going to give this one a whirl. But, I mean, I had my eye on this game because I was a big fan of City of Heroes a while back. That was sort of my first experience with an MMORPG. And I personally had a lot more fun with it than WoW. I know that's probably sacrilege to say, but I did. And
let's get Dax back.
So seeing this, I was kind of thinking, well, this would be pretty interesting to be able to make your own character, but now be in a universe with characters that you know and that are interesting and storylines based on the comics and whatnot. And the other thing was I was very curious to see how it worked on a console because, of course, it's out for the PC. It's also out for the PlayStation 3. And so we grabbed the PlayStation 3 version, and I got to say, I now know why they have not done an MMO on a console before, because it's playable, but navigating those menus is
so slow.
Oh,
so frustrating.
A fucking disaster, man. Like when you hit L1 or whatever to shift tabs, and it takes like 5 seconds. Yeah, just fucking kill me, man. Like what the fuck?
You know what I found out is that you can shift multiple tabs without it actually loading the screen. So if you know you need to go over 3 or 4, just hit it 4 times.
Yeah, but still. And like, even if there's a way, I don't know, something to dedicate to the processing of those menus, like,
there's just so many menus and things necessary for a game like this, and just managing it is really hard without a mouse. It
brought out such an appreciation for like the interface of World of Warcraft, which is just incredible.
So this was my first like jaunt into an MMO, and let me tell you, those menus were intimidating. I had no idea what I was doing. I think the first time I was there, I stood in that little hub world, looking at the menus, trying to figure out what was going on. Some dude comes up to me and starts like dancing in my face. I got to tell him to beat it, and then he flips me off and leaves. And like I'm like, what is going on in this place? I'm just trying to look at some goddamn menus, and people are running around crazy. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on for like the first 2 hours I played this game. You know, trying to figure out the equipment screen, and I might as well jump into that right now. The character creation is complete bullshit in this game.
Oh, I love it.
Like, no, it's so stupid. I spent probably a good, 45 minutes making my, like, Thundercats Cheetara girl.
I also made a cheetah girl. That's kind of funny. What was yours name?
Exactly how I wanted her. And then, I walk into the first whatever quest, beat it, get 2 pieces of equipment, and all of a sudden I look completely different.
I did hate that.
Ouch.
I'm like, really? Why even
Now,
customize my character?
I know there is non-aesthetic armor, too, that you can get that you can equip that doesn't change your look.
Yeah.
But they don't make that really clear, and I really never got to it. Now, what was the name of your Chitara character, since we never played together?
I think it was the Chitara.
Well,
I think there was 3 E's in Chitara, though, because I think normal Chitara was taken.
I was feline good.
Now, the idea of equipping armor and changing your appearance, I gotta say, like, I didn't really notice too much of that. But I like it because one of the things in City of Heroes that sucked is there was no real concept of loot in that game. That was one of the things that really, after a while, it got repetitive and boring because you could earn, like, I think badges and stuff, but you couldn't actually earn things that you could put on your character that looked cool. I mean, I think you could get a cape at some point. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of being able to pick up stuff and put it on and change your look.
Aside from that, though, that the initial character creation I really loved, and it was my favorite thing about the whole game. Like, any vision I had for a superhero, I could make in there.
It was
pretty close to what I saw in my head when I thought of it.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely pretty much on par with City of Heroes, maybe even a little more flexible.
And it was pretty quick, too. Like, I mean, I spent a long time only because I wanted to make it look just right. But.
Yeah, and I actually don't mind the controls and stuff that much. I think I would. I might play it more. I don't know. I'm debating trading it in because I can still get like almost.
You can't trade it in.
Oh, you can at Best Buy.
Oh, really? They'll take it?
Oh yeah, bud.
Oh, I'm going there tomorrow.
Like you can trade it. You can trade it straight up for Pokemon. Yeah, man.
I might have
for
to
what,
trade.
DS? I don't have it.
But you can trade it in. I'm sure on some of their upcoming trade 2 get 1 free stuff. So
Interesting.
Really?
They have it on their website. I didn't actually try trading it in, but
because I heard that the account is tied directly to the game disc.
It is.
And
right. But
once
that's lots of games are like that.
No, but once you like assign it, it's tied like to your PlayStation ID.
No, I think you can buy a subscription and link it up through that. Like if you go through
Maybe.
I don't know. I read the same thing that Huck City's talking about. I remember reading that there's no way to get rid of this game because
really
nobody else can play it.
So I'm going to Best Buy tomorrow.
Yeah,
Try it.
Try it out, man.
Let me know. But I just like, were you going to move on, or do you still want to talk about? Because I just wanted to mention the one thing I did like about the game is I appreciate that they tried to bring in sort of an action-y element
me
to.
too.
Because it wasn't
just right-clicking on fucking guys.
Exactly. Like, you actually felt like you were executing different moves and stuff, and that was a lot of fun.
And even the enemies, from what I played, had a little more going on than Warcraft, right? Like, in the context of the mission, like guys getting turned into gorillas and shit like that, and I don't know. I haven't played much Warcraft, but it's usually, just patrolling enemies that you gotta fight.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from, like, once we kind of got past some of the struggles of, like, Huck City, when we hooked up and we were trying to play, and we couldn't use the headset. My headset wasn't working, which was absolute disaster, because then it's like you got to type with...
I spent, like, 10 minutes every 10 minutes typing messages.
I don't know how we even got through that, but we did manage to do a mission together, which I thought was pretty fun. And
that was a lot of fun, actually.
And just seeing that
Sounds like you guys really enjoyed hooking up.
Oh, we did.
We hooked up in a big way.
Me and Chitara.
We took down the Scarecrow in a menage a trois, you could say.
But I mean, exploring the world was pretty fun too. Like, I just remember finding the police station in Gotham City. You go on the roof and the bat signal is there. Just interesting little things like that made it a lot of fun. So, I mean, it's something I could see there being a lot of potential. I just, now that there's all these other games coming out, I don't know if I'll go back to this, and I don't know if I'm going to pay to subscribe anymore.
One thing that kind of pissed me off, now, I don't know if they do anything like this in Warcraft, but, like, do they limit the levels of people that are around you? Because I know I'd walk in there with, like, my level 2 Chitara, and all of a sudden I've got a level maxed out 30 villain kicking my ass. And he just, like, flies out of nowhere, lands, and starts beating the shit out of me. And that pissed me off.
It's all your server specifications.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because Dwyer and I were sitting around typing messages, and all of a sudden, some dude comes up and kicks both our asses, and we're dead. We gotta find each other again.
But did you get my message about that? Because you can disable PvP. There's a setting. You just turn it off, and then people can't hit you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get that message.
Found that out later that night. Good to know.
That would have been good to know.
All right, what else you guys want to talk about?
When do you guys go?
All right, Huck City, you got some stuff?
Sure. Actually, I kind of went into the bag of old games. I played. I actually beat Final Fantasy 13. I was sitting at like the second last chapter forever, and don't think I'll ever be touching that game again. It just was so long, and so, I mean, the mechanics I really liked, the battle system I really liked, but the story is typical, like, Japanese cheese, and it's just, like, so brutal and so drawn out. Like, something you could say in 5 seconds, they say in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the end boss, like, doesn't even make any sense. Like, by the end, I don't even know who I'm fighting. It kind of felt like they told me who the final boss was in like chapter 1, and then I spent 13 like chapters walking in a straight line to him, and then when I got to him, it was like, oh, we're fighting, and that was it. I don't know. It really didn't grab me the way I expected it to. I thought something more, and it started getting all crazy with like weird stuff going on. I don't know. I mean, if there was another game that came out with similar battle mechanics to that, I would definitely pick it up. But I would not play this game again. The other stuff I've been playing, actually, I took advantage of the PSN sale and I bought Peggle and Shatter.
Nice.
Both those games are really good.
Absolutely.
Peggle especially is amazing. And I actually recently picked up Halo Reach. And you guys weren't lying. This game is phenomenal. When you guys talked about it in your review, I'm only, I think, halfway through the game right now, but it is so good. I mean, I hadn't played a Halo game in a while. I never picked up ODST, so this really
ODST's a piece of shit.
That's what I heard. So this really scratched my my Halo itch. I thought they did a really good job so far.
Scratch the old Halo.
Yeah.
The itchy Halo.
One other game I picked up, which you guys probably haven't played, is I actually picked up Tactics Ogre for the PSP, and I've been playing that on my daily commute, and that game is awesome, but at the same time, hard as hell. I have just been getting my ass kicked in it, and I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but I've been plowing through it, but it's a lot harder than I expected it to be for a strategy game.
Is that made by the same people who did like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff? Like, no,
I think these guys made like Ogre Battle and some of the more out there. I can't remember. Is it Natsume? I can't remember the guys who made it. But they didn't. I don't think they made Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, okay. I liked Final Fantasy Tactics for the Game Boy Advance, but I found that like once it started getting
game to that. It might be the same guys because it is very similar.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was, but I don't know. The thing with those games, like I like them at first, but then as you progress and the battles get longer and longer and longer, and it's like to the point where you're like investing like an hour into one fight, and then you might lose. It's like, oh, I can't handle this.
Yeah. These fights haven't been too long. The levels are pretty small, but at the same time, it's more just the difficulty level. Like, guys will really key on your weakest guy and take them out. And they have this sort of, like, death mechanic where a guy can die in a battle, but he can only die in 3 battles total.
Oh, okay.
And when he dies on the battlefield, you have 3 turns to heal him or revive him. So it's really this weird sort of risk-reward thing. You know, you could waste a turn, bring the guy back to life, or just kind of let him die to try to beat the battle.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, but it makes it really hard when you get 3 enemy turns in a row and they go and just squash one of your guys. The only other game I've been playing, which I think everyone here's played, is stacking.
Yeah.
And,
I've played a little bit.
What's that?
I've only played a little bit, but I do want to talk about it.
I've played the first 3 areas. I'm on the 4th, which I think is the last one. And I think the puzzles are really well designed in it. It didn't really grab me the same way that Costume Quest did. But I think at the same time, they tried something different. And it works pretty well. I kind of like the whole Russian doll puzzle mechanic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I fucking love this game.
Yeah.
Like, I had the hugest Double Fine boner this entire fucking month. And, like, stacking, the only thing I could say that I don't like about it is, not the look of it, but it looks kind of brown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everything about it looks brown.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of an old Genesis game. Like, everything's purple.
Right.
But this is all brown. And there's no excuse. But that's the only small complaint I have about this game. Like, such an original idea, cool puzzles, awesome personality. That's the biggest thing with Double Fine stuff. Like, these games just have a personality all their own.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just want to do everything possible in these games. And they make them in such a way that it's not a chore doing everything in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
it's a perfect size, perfect length. You never get sick of anything. And
even just going and finding, like, the unique characters. So they have a mechanic in the game where you can enter into a guy's body, and then there's unique characters throughout each level. I think there's, 18 or 20 or something?
yeah.
So they kind of make it a little mini game to go and find all these unique characters and hop in them. And even that, tiny mini game adds nothing, but it's fun to do. And, see all the different sort of powers that the people have.
Yeah, I've only played a little bit, but I, was immediately struck by how original it is. I mean, you're not going to see something like this made at probably any other studio. And I mean, just the fact that, I don't know how well something like this will sell, but just the fact that it's out there is amazing. I love the cutscenes and how they kind of took from, the silent film kind of thing. And, it's I don't know, just sit around and brainstorm some ideas and come out with something that hasn't been done before and then turn it into a game. And, it's so hard to actually do that. People talk about it all the time, but to actually turn something totally new into a game that's fun, and, they seem to be doing it consistently. So, I'm definitely going to play through the rest of this.
All this Double Fine action that we've been seeing too has made me actually want to go back and play Brutal Legend.
I did that, as a matter of fact, as part of my Double Fine infatuation.
Really?
And I still haven't beaten it yet, but that's the next thing I plan on going back to, because I was loving replaying it. It just sucked. It came out at a time when 15 games came out that year, and it just, I don't know, for me it got lost in the shuffle, but I've gone back to it and I'm really liking it. And I also want to play. I actually never played Psychonauts, but
neither have I. Actually.
I'm dying to play it now.
Maybe we should do that.
Xbox.
Yeah, I have it on Steam too. It was really cheap on Steam, so
we should do that for a retro review at some point.
The infamous. We're never actually going to do a retro.
It'll never happen. But let's talk about it. Well, while we're on the topic of Double Fine, I guess I should mention that I played Costume Quest, which I hadn't got around to, but I know you guys played it and loved it.
Yep.
And I loved it as well, although I will say it took a little while to grow on me. The first, half hour to an hour while I was kind of, figuring out what you can do, I kind of thought, I don't know, something about it just feels like a cheap budget title, and I found a few little weird bugs, and it just, at first, I don't know, I just wasn't, the door-to-door mechanic of having to go and, go through and trick-or-treat every single door got a little repetitive. But outside of that, I got completely hooked, and once I started playing, I basically couldn't stop, so.
You can skip that cutscene, right?
Yeah. but still, just the fact that you have to actually go out and find.
Well, it's you're going into a battle. It's like so you don't. It's better than fighting random battles, I'd say.
I guess.
Like most RPGs.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's the thing. I'm not big on the classic RPG stuff, but the fact that it sort of adds in the Mario and Luigi action elements is just enough to keep me interested. And like the battles are short, so they're never really all that painful anyway if you don't like that kind of stuff.
I was also thinking of it from like a game design type perspective, and because they know exactly how many enemies there's going to be, they can balance it perfectly.
Yeah.
You never really feel like you're getting smoked, but you never really feel like you're dominating either.
I never really felt like there was a challenge either, though. Like I don't even think I died once in the game, so
I don't even know if you can.
I think I did on one of the bosses, the final boss. I died. I think the first time I played it, but
yeah, it is. I mean, that is an argument.
But that doesn't bother me really that much.
It's
right?
like
you couldn't be on autopilot. Like you couldn't just hit X the whole time.
Yeah.
And beat the game. You have to be involved. And while it's still easy, I don't think it's to a detriment to the game. It's not easy in the sense that you're a zombie playing it. It's just easy.
Yeah. You're not throwing your controller against the wall.
You guys talk about Kirby in the same way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very similar. Okay, anything else that you've been playing, Huck City?
Just one more game, but I think
we're on to you, right?
And I are going to talk about it later. Or after. I'll let Frank go with the rest, right?
Okay.
Well, I had a couple other things.
Yeah, sorry. I thought we were on you already.
No, I just jumped in because it was a Double Fine game, but I wasn't sure. But I don't have too much else. I just wanted to mention You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah.
Which, for people who don't know, is this trivia game that I guess it was like in the late 90s originally.
It was early 90s.
Early 90s originally came out?
I'm pretty sure it was mid 90s.
Well, it had to have been mid when I played it because it was online. I don't know if there was another version that was offline that came out before that.
I never played online, actually.
Yeah, because there used to be this network of online games you could play, and I forget what the network was called, but there was another game that I liked as well called Acrophobia. And you'd log on, and basically the idea was it would come up with acronyms, and you had to come up with like sort of funny what that acronym stood for, and then people would vote on what their favorite was. So it was like an online game. You just kind of go and play with strangers. And You Don't Know Jack, same thing, except it's just a trivia game. It was basically kind of like 1 versus 100 way before that existed. And so now they've brought it back.
Or even Buzz, if you guys have played Buzz.
Yeah. So now they've brought it back for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I don't know if it's on any other platforms, but it's budget priced, and it's a lot of fun, honestly. Like it's you might not think, oh, why do I want to play a trivia game on my game console or whatever, or I don't like board games or something, but the sense of humor in You Don't Know Jack makes it a lot of fun. I mean, some of the jokes are kind of corny.
I think that's the one thing I might get sick of.
But at the same time, it's always wacky and creative and something different. And the visual style I found was, I never got tired of like the intros to each numbered question, or even though it's the same thing.
A little tired of that.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I still love the visual presentation with everything.
Yeah.
And it's a great party game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I guess the one thing, if you're debating, why would I play something like this on a game console? Well, the one benefit for sure is that it can keep track of what questions you've already had, so you don't repeat yourself. Whereas like if you're playing like a DVD game or something, you always end up with repeats. And of course, there is going to be downloadable content. I don't know if there actually is yet. I think there might be, but so that'll keep more questions coming in as well. So yeah, it's a pretty quick and easy kind of game to get into, but for like $20 or $30, however much it is, I forget now, it's totally worth it. And on the topic of trivia, just want to give a quick shout out to MovieCat. I know we talked about this a little bit on the Film Junk podcast, but it's a movie trivia game for the iPhone. It was free for a little while. I think now is it $1.99 or $2.99?
$2.99, I think.
And honestly, I think this is like better than Seen It. and like I like seeing it, but I think this is better. Just the categories of questions, the types of questions they have.
Oh yeah, this game is incredible.
Yeah,
I for a couple of days I was hooked, like just trying to get. It gets to the point though where it's really hard to get a better score. Like I find you're kind of at the mercy of the type of questions you're getting, and I don't know. I just kept kind of getting the same score every time and kind of lost interest. The thing that drove me is like the picture categories. Like they'll recreate a movie poster with cats,
right,
and stuff like that, and that stuff was really fun.
Okay,
like is the cost on iPhone only, or like is it on iPad only, or is it both?
iPhone and iPad.
Yeah, I played on iPhone.
Wow.
And one other quick iPhone recommendation. I've been playing a bit of a game called League of Evil, which is, I believe, 99 cents, and it's a platformer. And I've not been a huge fan of playing action type games on the iPhone with the virtual controller because it's usually frustrating and not very accurate. But this one, the thing that they do, I think that makes it work so well, is that there's only a left and a right and a jump and an attack. So there's no up and down. So automatically you're removing two possible wrong ways you could be pushing on it. And it's quick, easy levels. It's kind of like Super Meat Boy. You're just trying to get from the beginning of the level, jump up some walls, pass some obstacles, and then you got to kill a scientist at the end of the level, and then on to the next one. And there's like, you can try and grab like a briefcase through, or you can try and get a faster time. So you get like stars based on your performance and gives you incentive to go back and try and do better. But yeah, a lot of fun and definitely one of the best sort of platformer type games I've seen on the iPhone. Okay, so one other game that I want to mention that I did have a chance to play, and I know, Frank, you've been planning on playing it.
Oh, I've played like some of it.
Okay.
I just haven't finished it yet.
All right, so it's a downloadable title for the PlayStation called Tales from Space, about a blob. And
made by Drinkbox Studios.
Yes.
In good old Toronto.
Full disclosure up front, our friend Gran worked on the game, hooked us up with a free copy to review the game. But with the stipulation that we'd be completely upfront and honest about it. So let's do that. I actually had a great time playing it. It's basically a 2D platformer where you control a blob, and it's definitely influenced by Katamari in the sense that you can absorb objects and you need to reach a certain size in order to get to the next area.
And you're growing from level to level, and your world's changing based on that.
Right. Now, what they also add to that, though, is that the fact that it's actually a platformer, and that, you can, like in later levels, you get abilities like electricity and magnetism, which, you can stick to walls or you can pull things closer to you. And it's just really well designed. And just, if you're a fan of 2D platformers, this is,
and, I guess from what I've played, the places where it kind of falters a bit is kind of some of the cutscene art style and stuff I wasn't that crazy about. And music-wise, some people really like it. For me, it's not my cup of tea. But
I didn't have a problem with the music. It just got really repetitive.
Yeah,
there's only like 3 or 4 songs in the whole game.
That I should say, because I was taking my time to really explore the levels.
Yeah.
So I was in a level for like 20 minutes to half an hour at a time. Like I'm trying to find everything in the level, and maybe that's why I noticed it a bit more. It was more towards the end of the level that I was starting to get that vibe, but I can't stress enough like how good like the jumping mechanics feel, and like wall jumping and stuff like that. Like it just feels the way a platformer should, and it tends to take the approach of, if you're not quite sure if you should be able to land this or if you should be able to stick to this, let them stick to it. And it's like, it's never, I felt I should have been able to do that. What I should be able to do, even when it's borderline, I can do it, and it feels right all the time. And I don't know, so many platformers, that's where the frustration level starts to settle in, and that is not happening for me with this game at all. If I don't do something, I feel like it's my fault, or it's the design is intended that the size I am right now or what I'm doing right now means I'm not supposed to be trying to do this.
Yeah. I only played the demo, and I found the exact same thing. You'd make a jump and you'd just miss it, but you'd kind of start sliding down the edge of a platform, and you wouldn't just like fall to your death. You could kind of bounce around back up and save yourself if you needed to, and it really alleviated a lot of that frustration that a lot of platformers have.
Yeah, I do agree that I like the art style and I like the cutscenes, but for instance, the cutscenes in between levels, there's no sound.
Yeah,
there's certain little things that just kind of make it feel, I guess, like a downloadable title as opposed to a full release.
I guess
game.
That's a more accurate description of what I meant. Like, the art style during the levels is fine. Like, I like it a lot.
I kind of like the background animation.
Yeah, like the scientist in the background and stuff like that. Like, that stuff's really cool. And it's more like, it feels a little light, the cutscenes in between levels.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can really say that.
Like, I really like their decision to go with this sort of like 50s sci-fi theme. I just kind of wish they would have gone a little further with it, maybe. But, it's just it's a fun platformer for all ages. And I think, actually, I don't know if you guys had a chance to try this, but there's a 2-player local co-op mode as well.
I haven't.
And it was a lot of fun. I mean, you can work together on some of the puzzles, but there's also a competitive aspect where it keeps track of who's collected the most stuff. And you can definitely get in each other's way as well. So, it's actually well worth checking out.
Yeah, I wanted to finish it before tonight, but just been too busy, man.
No worries. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit more on the next episode as well.
Absolutely.
But, definitely check it out. I mean, it's one of these games that, like, it doesn't quite have that thing that's going to get people talking about it, you know what I mean? Like, there's no big gimmick to it or, like, there's no name behind it or anything. But it's just one of those games, if you take a chance and download it, you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So definitely check it out. Tales from Space About a Blob.
And they're supporting it with DLC and stuff, too. Like, I know they already did one thing with, like, some costume stuff, and I think there's plans for more. I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. That's it for me.
Alrighty. Let's see what we have here.
What do we got?
Pull out the list.
Stacking, talked about it. Brutal Legend, talked about it. Now, I've talked often on the show that I'm a phase gamer.
Yep.
Like, I'll get into my Xbox 360 phase, and I'll just... No other system will exist. Like, it's all I care about.
Right.
Well, shortly after recording our last podcast, I got into a heavy PS3 phase. Like, serious. And it started with DC Universe. I'm like, for some reason, I had to play this game.
Right.
I think it was because there was no reviews for it yet, and, like, there was people talking about it saying it was kind of good, and I'm like, I gotta buy this.
Yeah, you know what? If we had waited for reviews, we probably wouldn't have bought it because the reviews have been mediocre, and I don't think they've been that fair, to be honest with you. I think it's better than...
It took forever for reviews to come out, and it's...
Yeah.
But, so I started playing a ton of PS3 games, and I've been playing PS3 almost exclusively ever since.
That a boy.
So I revisited GTA 4 after playing Red Dead Redemption, and I went right into the Ballad of Gay Tony.
Okay.
And the first few missions, I was really liking it. Like, there were a lot of variety and kind of interesting. And then there's a helicopter mission, that is the most frustrating thing I've done in a game ever. Like, shooting while flying these helicopters is the worst thing I've ever experienced. And I was like, am I not doing this right? Like, am I doing something wrong? And I consulted a guide.
Oh,
what?
Boy.
And
no, you didn't.
Just, I've done it before.
Glanced. You just glanced, right? You didn't,
that wasn't even... Wait. A helicopter battle, not even the final boss of the game?
Trust me. And the first paragraph I read in this guide is, if you're dying constantly, that's just the way it is. Like, this is by far the most annoying thing of this whole game. Like, so, my frustration was justified as far as I was concerned. But after that, I kind of stopped playing it. Like, I still mean to get back into it, but kind of rubbed me raw. So I also picked up Gran Turismo 5, which I've been playing quite a bit. I love the driving, obviously, but
what else is there?
Well, it's what's not there, and it's any semblance of a coherent menu system and knowing what cars you should be using or what you can use or just like.
Actually, I figured that out. It's not too bad, actually. You when you go into a race and you know how
well, the color will, if you have a compatible car, it'll highlight it.
Yeah, that's right. But if you say you have whatever, some shit box, and you want to know if you have any cars, if you go into the garage in that race screen and then you sort, it'll show you only the cars that are compatible for that race.
Okay,
so
maybe.
But I do agree that it's then hard to find those cars.
Yeah. And I don't know. I like the driving, but the menus are just, for how much time they spent on this game, put one guy on menus and just make this stuff awesome. It's like, I don't understand how this can happen with a project with that much money and time.
I'll tell you what happened. They've spent too much time trying to embed that video in the background.
I don't know. It's fucking brutal. But the driving is sublime. We were talking about reviewing the Sly Cooper collection as a retro review.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I replayed Sly Cooper 1, which I loved originally, and I loved just as much now. I platinumed the bitch, which is how it goes. And Sony's so good at making reasonable but complete platinum standards. You don't even have to do the time trial on every level, which is really annoying to get platinum. So it was a joy to get platinum in this game, and I plan on doing it for part 2 and 3 as well. I've started part 2, and another thing I fucking hate. Jesus Christ. Why do games fuck with their own shit so much? They have a formula that works, it's fun, and they just have to throw more dicks in the gangbang. It's such a disaster. I remember Resistance 2 did it too, to Resistance 1. It's like a movie trilogy, right? There's nothing better than a movie trilogy where every game feels the same, right? They don't mess with it too much from the next one to the next one. Star Wars is the perfect example, right? Everything's the same scope. They frame the beginning and the ends of the movies the same. Shit just feels right. Right? Now you compare that to something like Spider-Man. Holy fuck. And I'm not talking about the quality of the movies. The first one is filmed in 1.85 to 1, and the second one's 2.35 to 1. Already you're done. Why would you do that? Oh my God.
You're really big on symmetry.
Consistency, I think, is better. But this game, I'm liking the game, but it's, there was this big kick around the time this game came out after GTA 3. Everything has to be a sandbox and a hub world, and there was no, there was no more just, play different levels and have fun. Everything is got to be this shitty living, breathing world that you have to find missions in. And I hated, Crash Bandicoot at least kind of stayed true to just playing levels, and I like that. But
Sly Cooper 1 kind of does that too, though.
It's a very small hub world, right?
It is.
And so I really like that formula too, and the map that they would have associated with it, this 2D map, the stylized stuff, and I don't know, just don't fuck with shit. If the game's good, they fucked with shit that didn't need to be touched. It's just change for the sake of change. And I love when games do it right the first game, like Halo. The whole vibe of the menus and everything about Halo really hasn't changed that much, right? Maybe they added dual weapons here, changed the weapons up a bit, but the core gameplay elements are exactly the same. And it's so refreshing.
Do you think games there's more pressure to do new stuff with the sequel than there is, say, a movie?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like sequels for movies suffer from the same thing. Like just comic book movies as a shallow example, having 3 enemies in the sequels instead of 1 in the original. And
yeah, there's always, you got to have the newer, cooler special
and
effects.
Sidekicks and it's kind of sad. But like a great example of a consistent, good trilogy is the Bourne trilogy.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a good example. Like they always close with the same fucking Killer Moby tune, and but I have a similar graphic. Like I'm definitely cool with that.
So before we go off Sly Cooper, I also played it and beat it. Sly Cooper 1. I never played this game when it was originally on PS2. And you know what? I probably couldn't tell that this wasn't a next-gen game. Other than that, it was a platformer, and there are like no platforms out there right now. No platformers out there right now. But I mean, the platforming is like, it's tough, but it's not too frustrating to the point where you're ready to throw your controller.
Yeah, like just the way they use the circle and square buttons is almost like this comboing version.
Yeah,
of,
like
or QuickTime version. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I'm surprised more things don't rip it off, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought the humor was really good in it.
I wasn't as big on that, but...
Yeah. The only thing that really pissed me off was some of the bosses...
starting over? Like the...
Yeah, like you have to redo the entire thing. And it's really, like, each boss is like one giant puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think it was the boss with the mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
God, I was ready to throw my shit. That boss was so frustrating. You'd get up... I think there's like 3 levels of mirrors you had to get to and then fight them. And, I look at that boss and I struggled so much with that. And then I look at like the panda boss and I beat that panda boss in 2 seconds. Like, I don't know if I had just like mastered the mechanics by then, but that first boss crushed me. And I was like, I was thinking if every boss was like that, like I would never get through that game. Well, luckily that was probably the hardest boss in the game. And I thought even the mini games were really fun too. Just like the like kind of dual stick shooter ones, and like kind of like Geometry Wars type.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the like ones where the guy, I can't remember his name, the hippo guy would run and you'd have to like defend him kind of thing. Like just small things like that were a nice like change of pace through the platforming.
Absolutely.
And I'm planning on starting Sly Cooper 2 sometime this month.
Now, also part of my PlayStation phase, I picked up the PlayStation Move.
Yes.
And the sharpshooter to go along with Killzone 3. Haven't used it too much, and specifically for Killzone 3, I'll save that stuff for the next review, but I've used it briefly, and it's been extremely accurate and fun to use, but still haven't played a lot of games with it, so the jury's still kind of out. And while playing PlayStation 3, I've gotten back into SingStar a bit.
Nice.
Love belting out some tunes. And I don't know. It's got a great interface. Like the whole presentation with the videos in behind is, I don't know. I think it's better than watching animated bands play and stuff like that. But it's a fun game, good for singing. Come home juiced at 2 a.m, wake up the neighbors. They probably like it, though. I sound pretty good. And that's about it for PS3. I also played Back to the Future Episode 1.
Now,
I'm not going to talk too much about it. I didn't beat it.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I have lots of problems with this game. Like, I'm not as big on the Telltale games and the old school action games as you are, but like animation-wise, facial animation, just lip syncing, just really glitchy. Walking around Hill Valley at parts was just annoying, not knowing where you could go, where you couldn't. Like, interacting with objects isn't too bad with, like, you can see everything you can interact with, and, like, figuring out the puzzles is reasonable, but just seems rushed to me. Like, extremely rushed.
Did you guys play the Monkey Island ones?
Not the new ones.
I did. I haven't finished them all yet, but yeah, it's definitely similar. I'm gonna try and put some more time in Back to the Future because I think the second chapter's out now, right? And I still haven't finished the first one, but a couple things I'll say. First of all, on my laptop, this game was constantly chugging, and to me, it's like if you're not giving me like crazy, amazing graphics, if it's like a cartoony style, why can this not just scale nicely? You know what I mean? Like I had to turn everything down, all the detail, everything, and it didn't necessarily look that bad, but like I just by default I was like playing for like half an hour and it was just like all the cutscenes were brutal and I was like, why is this such a problem? And I didn't have that big of a problem with the Monkey Island games, so I don't know, that kind of sucked. But
I'm definitely a little disappointed in this. Like I like how they've kept it like consistent with like the themes of the like not film themes but like music themes and style of the movie. I like that, but I don't know. I haven't finished it, so the jury's still out, but so far not impressed.
Yeah.
I'd say the voice actor they got for Michael J. Fox is pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think, the problem I have, and for the most part, I like the story or what I've seen of it so far. Like, it does kind of seem to fit in with the movies and everything. But just sometimes some of the characters that they're introducing, it's kind of like, as soon as you start introducing new stuff, that's like, now I'm supposed to accept that this is part of the Back to the Future universe, and it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't quite feel right, but...
I don't know if we're going to talk about this next month or not, but picked up Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I really like it. Like, it's super fun, but I'm shit at it, and I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I did buy it. I think I'm gonna try it anyway. And
why not, eh?
Well, I was gonna return it, but I was gonna return it because I just didn't think I would have time. But I think I'm gonna try it, and maybe we can talk about it more next episode. Because I mean,
It'd be fun with a bunch of people.
Yeah,
and to break it out. But
I'm not big on fighting games, but maybe I can provide some sort of new perspective on this because I feel like a lot of these games just cater to a very specific audience. But then again, I don't know, this one, it seems like they're trying to keep the casual gamer in mind as well.
I've never played a Pokemon game in my life.
Really?
But I did pick up Pokemon Block with the French accents. I'm actually kind of liking it quite a bit. I tend to like simpler RPGs, and it's already, I know that it's getting a little complicated for me. Like, I've been reading some stuff online about, like, how to get good at Pokemon, and I'm already kind of sick of it. But the thing I like about DS games is if I'm watching, like, some shit TV show, I can just have my DS up and,
you can just
not really watch TV.
Exactly. If I just want to listen to the performances on American Idol, I can play Pokemon.
But the problem is you can't get achievements.
I know, which does suck, but really when you're watching TV, there isn't too many ways to get achievements.
Now,
except during playoff sports when I set up my second TV to play video games while I watch those. But
now, one thing we forgot to talk about with the 3DS.
Oh, the coins?
The coins.
So, achievements for walking and moving around. Not cool. Not conducive to the video. Like, so now, and it's kind of like, now when I play in my basketball league, like, I'm going to be tempted to throw my 3DS in my pocket while I'm playing. Like, I could be earning coins while I'm playing basketball, but then I could break my 3DS.
It is a little weird. Like, I don't quite understand how it works, but like I guess the idea is that it's their version of achievements, but they're trying to encourage kids to be active and walk and run places as well.
Such bullshit.
It sounds so lame, but
that's fine. But also just put an actual reward system in the game.
Yeah.
Like, would that kill you?
I don't know. But the one thing that is kind of cool about it is that apparently, like, it's not just like
they're usable in games.
Like, yeah, it unlocks stuff.
We haven't seen what they're using it for yet. It's going to be like unlocking special outfits and bullshit like that. It's going to be nothing of consequence. I promise you that.
I don't know. Outfits could be all right. I'm down with some outfits. Some unlockable outfits.
It'd be cool if they actually like the Nintendo Rewards Club. It might tie in with that because I know they're kind of talking about shutting that down. Like those points are going to expire
Right.
at the end of this year, so maybe they're going to start using this towards that stuff,
Could be cool.
which could be interesting. Or even if it just like they keep track of it in coins anyway, so maybe if it just added to that total somehow, because there's some pretty neat stuff on there. And finally, my first, well, I guess Family Feud was my first Facebook game that I got really into, but I've never really played like Farmville or anything like that, but I finally have gotten into a Facebook game, and that is Monopoly Millionaires. And I just love Monopoly. I love everything about it. Like, I just having grown up with it and stuff like that, I don't know what it is. I love Monopoly. And this is a kind of cool take on Monopoly where you're setting up your own board, rolling on your friends' boards, and just trying to make money and level up. Like, it's kind of useless grinding, but still kind of fun. So if we have any listeners out there, I need some help building hotels. So if you want to join up, just find me on Facebook and we can jam a little Monopoly Millionaires.
Yeah, I was a little confused that, like, I was watching.
I sent this guy an invite. He doesn't even, like, you can at least try it.
Well, I just haven't had time yet, but I was watching Alicia play, and I was really confused as to how, like, you move your piece on other people's boards, but then that levels you up.
As you roll, you level up
your board.
But you also collect property cards that you use to upgrade your houses and stuff.
I don't know.
It's pretty simple.
The
thing I like about it, it's simple. It's in a world that I love. And I don't have to count money.
I used to love Monopoly for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. Oh yeah, played
Monopoly's
the shit out of that.
a really good game. So
Sort of
it's another good mindless game, like for just killing a little time.
There's one Facebook game that I've been playing a bit actually. Zuma Blitz.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's pretty amazing actually. Like I'm a big fan of Zuma. Like the original game for Xbox Live, and it's probably been out for other stuff too. But so now they've kind of just found a way to break it up into like basically minute-long chunks, and it's super addictive. Highly recommend it. Facebook is the future of gaming. All right,
could be.
So is that it for what we played?
Yep.
That's it for me.
All right. Let's move on to our hot button topic for this month. Didn't do one last month, I don't think. Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Did we?
Yeah.
What was it?
Achievements, I think.
No, that was the first one.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
So
we're doing it this time.
This time around, we were inspired by the craze over the Dead Island video game trailer, which we talked a bit about on the Film Junk podcast already. I don't know if we need to get too much into our thoughts on the trailer itself. Huck City, do you have any? What were your impressions of this? Did you?
Well, I guess I can start us off here.
Well, let's before we get into trailers versus like CG trailers versus gameplay trailers, let's just eliminate you were trying to eliminate the topic of whether we like the trailer or not of Dead Island.
Right.
Like, I fucking hated it. You kind of hated it.
Yeah.
Like, just as if you looked at it as a 3-minute short film, I fucking hated it.
And my thought was that as an animated short, I kind of liked it, but as an advertisement for a video game and what that represents.
You liked it as an animated short?
Yeah.
I'm with Dwyer, too.
Oh, my God.
Like, from a technical point of view. From a technical point of view, I thought it was impressive. My problem was using this to sell a video game, and
well, you can like Transformers 2 from a technical point of view. Like, did you like it as a 2.5-minute short film? Give me a fucking answer.
I thought it was cheesy as you did. My point was it's attention grabbing as a piece of advertising. It's impressive. It got people talking about it. But then
I'm not talking about that either.
Okay, then I hated it like you did.
Beautiful. Huck, off to you.
I loved it.
Ugh.
No, I'm just kidding. I thought as far as using it to sell a game, it almost feels wrong to me. I understand why they would do it. I mean, obviously, it was a well put together, piece of film, if you want to call it that. But
I'd call it a film, but I wouldn't call it well put together. But keep going.
I find to me it's like so misleading. It just misleads everybody. And I don't know, at my work, everyone was buzzing about it. Like, oh my God, look at this trailer. It's amazing. This game's going to
I was questioning my identity at work.
And I don't know, when I heard people say that, I was like, how can you get the impression that the game's going to be amazing from this movie? Like, this could be nothing. And they already came out and said that the people in that trailer aren't even in the game. They're just, figments of the world. And there's no tie to the game at all. So basically, what you know is that there's zombies on an island. That's all that trailer has told you about the game. Nothing else, no details. It was pure like shock value or whatever you call it. And for me, it frustrates me to see that sort of marketing standpoint being used to sell a game. And I kind of feel like Alan Wake did the same thing. They came out with that super good looking trailer that had it had like in-game cutscenes, but no gameplay. I don't know, like 4 years ago or whatever.
And even the Killzone, the infamous Killzone 2 demo from E3.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now that was in-game and stuff like that, but you're right, there was no gameplay in it. And I think that whole perspective, like I much rather see that Killzone. See, the Killzone version, I don't mind, because that's like in-engine, in-game.
I'm not so sure. Like, I don't think the final game looked half as good as that original E3 trailer.
I'm sure they upscaled it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
But at the same time, that's running. This, I think, was made by some film studio as a marketing thing. Like, it's not even...
Yeah, I don't even think the developers made it.
Absolutely.
They probably said, like, hey, we need a film with zombies in it, and, go have them kill a family, and then we're going to market it for our game. Like, I don't even think... I mean, maybe they took the model of, like, The Hotel or something. I don't know.
Now,
but I feel like it's misleading to all the consumers, and I mean, it definitely will work. Like, if they put out no more advertising and then in a month release the game, I'm sure they'll sell a ton of copies just on that trailer alone.
Guaranteed.
And I think it's so strange how that works, that people will buy into this, like, almost like propaganda for the game, when really it told you nothing about the game at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it would sell so much right now. Like, I think there's a big divide between an online community who sees this and seeing it on TV. Like, maybe if they release this trailer on television, I could see that happening, but right now, I think it's kind of staying in the interwebs, and I think most people who see it that would play games do know the difference between a CG trailer and a gameplay trailer.
And that's what I thought until I heard, like, all the guys at work talking about it. Like, it was, the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, this is not the game. This has nothing to do with the game. It's just pure PR.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of joked about this at the beginning of the show. Is there any debate here? Like, I could care less about, like, CG trailers are useless to me. If I prefer, like, I remember seeing 2 seconds on an episode of, I can't remember the shitty video game show back in the day. I hope it comes back to me. But
GamePro?
No, they showed like 2 seconds of, or like a 30-second clip from E3 of Nintendo 64 before it came out. And it was like Mario spinning Bowser and 2 other things. And I rewound that and watched that like 600 times. And that means way more to me than this.
Well, so here's the thing, though. We're at a point where, if a game's coming out in 2 years, okay, well, we got to start raising some awareness for this game, right? Building a buzz, getting people talking about it. So if a game's coming out 2 years from now, what do you actually have that you can show people? Not much. So you got to come up with something, right? So that's why we start getting these trailers. And I understand that. And I think that there is a purpose for them. You know, it's like the announcement trailer for movies, you know, where it just shows a logo and plays some music or something. And it doesn't actually have any scenes from the movie. It's just there to say, hey, this is coming out. Maybe you got a little bit of an idea of what it's going to be. You're aware of it. And I get that. And I think that's useful. And, you know, clearly this has worked as an advertising tool for Dead Island. But I do think that there's a wide group of people out there, just sort of casual gamers, general public, who don't realize the difference and do think that
Sure.
somehow indicates.
And that's I agree, and that's when I meant more about like once it hits television.
Yeah,
that's when that mass market of people who don't know the difference.
Like I think that Killzone 2 trailer was actually more misleading. I think that people actually thought that was what the gameplay was going to be like, and they were like, holy shit, what is going on? This is like where video games are blowing my mind right now. And it wasn't like that. That was like cutscenes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem. But I understand, like, if you're marketing a game and like you can't, and just the whole idea of even taking screenshots and then like touching them up to release to the public, like that happens all the time now. And it's because you're not going to have the final best looking graphics until like a week before the game comes out, because you're optimizing and polishing right up to the end. Like, what else?
Yeah,
are you
I'm
supposed
still
to do?
saying with digital distribution, this is going to happen one day, and it's going to rock the world. And you heard it here first on Game Junk. And if you know me, you hear me talk about it a lot of the time. And I apologize for this again. But a Mario game would be the perfect example. Mario game, they really don't need to advertise that much, right? They make the best Mario game ever. Right?
Okay.
It's E3, right? People are expecting them to announce a new Mario game. You get to E3. You get to the Nintendo press conference. Reggie walks on stage, strutting his stuff, as he should. He gets up there, and he's like, presenting Mario 63D. And they're showing all these clips, and it will be available today. And today, boom, there you go. That's all people are going to be talking about. It's going to be a day, announcement release day, all in one. And it's going to rock the fucking world.
I think that'll only work for a big title.
Exactly, it is. But they're going to just, all the other stuff happening at E3 is just going to be like, it's going to fade into obscurity. Everyone's going to be like, did you download Mario today? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, count on it. You heard it here first.
See, I don't know.
Prophecies of things to come.
Like, I hear what you're saying, and it kind of reminds me of like J.J. Abrams with like Cloverfield or something, right? Where it's like,
no, man, exact opposite. That's building a hype by not showing something.
Okay.
This is, boom, atomic bomb, rocking everyone's world out
so
of
you're
nowhere.
Saying it doesn't even, you don't even know it exists.
You don't know. They announce it, and that day, guess what? You're good to go, bud. You can pick this thing up right now. You can leave here right now. Go get it. That simple. They activate it in the store the second that press conference is over. The world explodes.
The reason that won't happen.
The world explodes.
It'll happen.
The reason that won't happen is because a lot of these companies and publishers, they're all publicly traded. They all have stock. And to say, we've got a new Zelda game coming out next year, your stock goes up. People are investing. People are interested. You know, it's good for the company because you know a year from now that's coming out. That's going to be a big seller.
But with big titles, you know they're coming regardless.
Do you though? Like you're
what if you
about,
like? Okay, so you know, an Uncharted game, you're expecting it to come out in 2 years after the next one, right?
Well, we are, but Joe's public might not be.
Well, then what's the difference, really? Because let's say they accelerate the development and they have it ready in a year, right? It would have been, and then boom, they drop it. The public's like, this is what Nintendo and PlayStation are already doing, right? There's PlayStation starting to follow or even jump the Nintendo trend of putting all your major releases, or a lot of them, in the first half of the year. And then by the time the holiday season rolls around, there's already these hype machines behind these games, and people know they're the good games. Like, Nintendo games don't lose resale value. You still get the same trade-in value on Mario Galaxy 1 as you do on Mario Galaxy 2. That's why I think
amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think a game like a big game like that could do this, and I think it would help the company more than hurt it with like announcements for stockholders and stuff like that.
Well, and
because they don't really advertise their stuff that much to begin with.
But I think the other big problem is that how are you going to keep this under wraps? Like, once the game goes to be pressed, you know.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying with digital distribution.
Oh, okay. That's
okay. The key.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of an interesting idea.
Oh man, it is gonna. Oh,
I'm trying to think. I feel like something like that has happened.
The closest thing I can think of, but I don't think it was the actual case. It was me being young and uninformed. Was Mario 3 and the Wizard.
Okay.
Like that was, but
no, I'm pretty sure there's been. I don't know. Like,
I'm telling you, man, this is gonna. Oh man, it's gonna change the world.
Okay.
I don't think it will change the world. I think it'll change the world for that game.
Yeah, baby. I would just love to see that happen. That's like a ballsy move. That's, you know, the opposite of the way the industry's going about hyping games up for 4 years in advance. And Nintendo's like, you know what? Fuck you. We got this amazing game. We ain't gonna fucking pull your dick around for 3 years. Boom. Here it is. And people are just gonna eat it up. Nom, 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 nom.
I don't know. I think there are some developers out there who are starting to get a little wise to the, you know, overhyping things and starting to try and keep things under wraps as much as possible. Like, I mean, there's obviously the marquee titles that you're always going to want to let people know that it's coming, but I don't know.
Whether this happens or not, sorry, what I said, if it ever did, it would be the greatest. Like, that's the one thing I hope for in games more than anything. Like, every E3, like, you know how Jay hopes for, like, terrorist bombings at the Oscars?
He does?
At E3, I hope for this to happen. That's what I'm always waiting for. One of these years, it's going to happen.
Okay.
Oh, man, I'm excited already.
All right. So, trailers versus gameplay. Anything else to say about this topic?
It's just sad, man.
I just want to say that I'm kind of sad from a developer point of view of trailers, because like Deus Ex 2 kind of ran into the same problem where they release these crazy ass CG videos, and now it's, you know, now the public has this sort of like high watermark for what they are going to deliver, and now it's up to the developers to meet that watermark. You know, they're releasing these trailers so far out that they don't even have the game, like Frank was saying, or Dwyer, I don't know who said it, but, and then they have to, you know, then a year down the road they actually release gameplay videos, and it's like, oh, that doesn't look like the trailer they released a year ago, and all of a sudden the hype machine totally gets turned over on its head, and it's now negative that you've released this crazy looking, good looking trailer, and then you have a gameplay video that doesn't step up to the plate. And I think it can really, really hurt you in a sense if you go over the top on your gameplay trailer. And I have a feeling that Dead Island might run into that same problem where, you know, they've got all this hype around this, you know, cool atmosphere, and, you know, I don't know how they're going to be able to portray sort of like that same level through gameplay videos.
Yeah, I think it is going to affect them. I mean, under normal circumstances, I would say, you know, people don't remember trailers that came out a couple years ago by the time the game comes out under most circumstances. But I think with the Dead Island, it's a perfect example of one where, you know, when this game comes out, you know you're going to be reading reviews, and the first paragraph is going to mention something about this amazing trailer and all the expectations, and this is now part of the game's legacy that it has to live up to. And yeah, they got awareness out of it, but did they shoot themselves in the foot? Maybe. I don't know.
And I heard they actually announced this game 3 years ago.
It's possible. I mean,
it's been in development for a long time, apparently.
Yeah, and it was just another generic zombie game nobody cared about until this trailer came out, and now it's on everyone's radar.
Yeah.
I'm just like, to me, I'm not a fan of trailers in general, movie, video game, whatever, or talking about them. and even so much like announcements a lot of the time too. I like judging finished products, and I just think there's way too much emphasis on, you know, unfinished products, and I'd rather just like talk about a game that's done and I've played. It's way more, I don't know, fulfilling for
Accurate?
me. Just fulfilling. Like, half the stuff you end up talking about never even comes into reality, right? Like, it's just flashes in a pan, so.
Yeah, well, this is what the internet has brought us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll move on, and we will open up the Game Junk mailbag, which we do have a few emails to respond to, and we had a few questions on the forum as well. So let's start with this one from TH14, who said, if you haven't done this yet, I would be happy to hear you talk about your most anticipated games of 2011. And I know, obviously, I think in the first episode we talked about kind of some of this when we were reviewing E3 and all that. But let's revisit that. Let's kick out another top 5 here. Give our top 5 most anticipated games. So, Frank, what do you got?
Number 5, Resistance 3.
Ooh.
Now,
this after you just shit-talked Resistance 2?
no, I just didn't like that it fucked with the original.
Okay.
I still like the game a lot. As far as shooters go, I think a lot of times it's what feels best to you, and the Resistance games, although the first one was kind of a Halo ripoff, I still like the feel of it better, and I like the weapons and secondary fires and everything, and I don't know. These are just, for me, the most fun shooters to play, first-person shooters to play, so I'm jacked for Resistance 3.
Jacked up.
All right, Huck City.
My number 5, LA Noire. This game, kind of looks just like GTA, but from the sounds of it, it's going to be a lot less action, more sort of puzzle adventure game. And I'm actually really intrigued with this whole facial animation thing they have going on of like live actor caption for faces. And, it kind of looks a little odd, but at the same time, it looks a little more realistic than any other game out there. You are able to read facial expressions right off their face without having to read any text or listen to what they're saying, and it's kind of intriguing.
My biggest thing with this game is, do they have to have every fucking guy from Mad Men playing someone in this game? Like, every time I see a screenshot, it's a face capture of someone from Mad Men. Mix it up, for Christ's sake. Jesus.
All right, my number 5 is Jurassic Park, which, well, we talked a little bit Back to the Future. This is another game from Telltale Games. And what I'm very interested to see is what they do to add on to, to make it something other than just an adventure game, because they've said this is
seem to be thinking they're pushing their stuff more in like the Heavy Rain direction almost, right? Like interactive story.
That's what the comparison they've been making. They've said from the start that Jurassic Park is not really a property they thought would work as a straight-up adventure game. So they're going something a little more action-y, and obviously love Jurassic Park. So, yeah, it may not be amazing, but I'm definitely very looking forward to seeing what they do with it.
All right, number 4 for me. It's probably higher on both of your lists. Batman Arkham City.
Oh.
I love Arkham Asylum. I'm a little worried that they're doing what I was talking, the Jack and Dax syndrome, where the sequel has to have this hub world sandbox type thing. I actually liked the kind of broken up smaller pieces to Arkham Asylum, and but I still have ultimate faith it'll be a cool game. So,
right.
My number 4, Batman Arkham City. So not higher, right in the same spot. Same thing Frank just said. I was jacked up over Batman Arkham Asylum. I think they'll probably pull it off again in this game.
All right, my number 4 was Huxley's number 5, LA Noire. Oh yeah.
This didn't even crack my top 10.
I'm not like a super Rockstar fanboy or anything. Like, I've never been huge on the Grand Theft Auto games, and
I think it's Red Dead that's pushing this thing.
it is, but I also love the setting, and there's been games that have tried to do stuff in this kind of like, crime drama and like, I guess like the 40s, something like that. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Saboteur as well. I haven't played a ton of that, but I love the setting.
Saboteur was good. I played through that whole game, and I agree. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that too.
Yeah, so I just really hope that, they manage to actually make a fun game out of that setting.
Is this during Prohibition? Do we know?
Yeah, it is.
I'm out.
Sure.
I don't want to live in a world, real or fake, where you can't buy booze.
You know what,
I'm out.
It might be like. Did you ever see the movie L.A. Confidential?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it might be around that same time.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I don't think that's Prohibition.
No, I think it is later than that, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right.
I'll double check.
I was just set up for that joke. That's all.
All right, Frank.
Number 3. Mass Effect 3.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. A little low.
Yeah, I did expect it to be a little
Very
higher.
low.
Is
that a reflection of your thoughts on the game, or is that?
Well, no, it's a reflection on what my number 1 and 2 are.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay.
But I love the first 2, and when 2 came out, I played it nonstop, like almost not sleeping at all until I beat it. So I'm probably going to replay 2 on PS3 at some point, and just really excited for it.
All right.
All right. My number 3, which is probably not even on your guys' list, but Rage. I don't know. I've seen this game just in the videos, and I'm super excited for it. I really don't know why. It kind of just seems like Borderlands, but more realistic looking. And I don't know. I guess I'm just love it, and I'm interested to see what Carmack can do.
I find with like the id games is that they're always like, technically amazing, but just not the most fun games. But
yeah, and I think what interests me more about this game than say like Doom 3 or 4, whatever it was that just came out recently, or like the last game they released, is that now that they're with Bethesda, I'm interested to see how they integrate more of Bethesda's sort of like design focus.
You hate Bethesda.
I know, but they still design their games. They're shit technically. They still have like decent design.
All right.
It's kind of like
it's kind of like best of both worlds. Yeah,
that's right.
Cream Dream Supreme.
All right, my number 3 is Portal 2, and I don't know if I need to say much more about it, but I'm pretty excited about it.
I do like that. Apparently, if you buy the PS3 version of Portal 2, you get a Steam copy as well.
Yeah,
and I think that's why they released that cloud save when they did. I think it's part of whatever deal they had for that cross functionality.
Yeah.
Oh, because they weren't even going to release it, or what was the deal? What was
Valve was just kind of anti PS3. They said they weren't going to, but
yeah, that's right.
They've
didn't Gabe, whatever his name, come out and say that he hates PS3?
Yeah, but now
he'll never make a game.
Now he fucking loves it. Make up your mind, bud. We got no time for these fucking parlor tricks. Just fucking make your games and shut up. Number 2, The Last Guardian.
Nice.
I'm almost more excited to play the re-release in HD of Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, but I know nothing about this game. It could be a piece of shit, but just based on the track record of that studio.
Yeah,
and just the look of it looks amazing. Like whenever the animal does that, like yawn like a dog, or just fucking boom, boner. Love everything about it.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention for me, and I don't know much about it, but visually everything I've seen looks amazing, and they always seem to make these really interesting and different games. So, Huck City.
My number 2 is Frank's number 3, I think, Mass Effect 3. And actually, I still haven't beaten Mass Effect 2, but I played the shit out of Mass Effect 1, and I will get back to Mass Effect 2 once I beat Halo Reach. So I'm looking forward to Mass Effect 3 and seeing how they conclude it all or whatever. Put their third stamp on the however many number of games they decide to do.
Okay. My number 2 is Batman Arkham City. A little higher than you guys. The open world thing does worry me a little bit. I don't know, like, have they actually said it's open world? Like, I know that you're actually in Gotham City, but I just hope that it's at least has some...
Like, I'm dreading a segment where you drive from mission to mission in the Batmobile and stuff like that. Like,
as long as they kind of stick to mostly what worked in the first one, but if it's like that and it's fairly linear, but it's just that you can explore
like a couple
the city.
Cool Batmobile segments, or like even Batplane and stuff like that, like, as long as it's not a means of transportation every time between missions, I think I'd like it if it was just,
a little mini game.
Like typical, like, any vehicle segment in, like, a lot of the big games, like
Sly Cooper.
Or even Halo. Like, there was tons of different breakups in the gameplay, and if they use the city to that advantage, I think it'll be really good. But
they just have, as long as they keep the Metroidvania design style, I'm in, and hopefully they keep the Riddler trophy stuff or something like that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Okay, the big surprise.
I'll do number 1 at the same time.
Yeah,
I'll count 3. 1, 2, 3. Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception.
Yay!
I'm just so excited for this game.
My number 1 was Mortal Kombat. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I'm gonna platinum this bitch so hard it's not even funny. Like, I can't wait. I'm really considering getting a 3D TV for the release of this.
I've heard the 3D is awesome. Man.
Exactly. Like, I'm really close, and I've never been more excited for a game in my life, I don't think. And, like, it's kind of sad. Like, I'm gonna be 31 years old. Like, it's pretty brutal, but I don't know what it is.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't usually get jacked up for game releases, but this game, I will probably be at the store when it opens. I'm pretty jacked up.
I would want to take off a day or two, almost.
Yeah.
Oh, that Drake. What a dreamboat.
It's funny. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, it's weird to me that Uncharted has become, at the level of, like, the Metal Gear Solids and, like, all these other franchises that sell systems at this point. But it
deserves to be, though.
But in a way, it really brought nothing to the table. Like,
storytelling.
Like, gameplay wise, right? Like, they kind of stole the elements from Gears of War, a little platforming stuff here. And I don't know, to me, I respect that in ways. Like, don't try reinventing the wheel all the time. Like, perfect stuff and make it an awesome experience. So, like, I definitely have the appreciation for a game like Portal that brings a totally new experience to the table. But there's something about a game just bringing it all together, doing it right, and not messing up anything about it.
I think it is. I think Uncharted 2 is still, like, one of the, if not the best game out currently.
Yeah.
And I think the way they tell the story and just the animations they have in that game sell the game. I mean, when you're watching that, Drake could be a live action guy. He has so many, like, unique things, and I just imagine they're going to step that up even more in Uncharted 3.
And I remember when I was a big, early in the days of PS3, I was pushing it pretty hard while there was a lot of naysayers. And I remember, Huck, the first time you played Uncharted 1, you said the same thing I did. And for me, it's the moment when you're walking through the submarine and just the way he grabs onto the doors and it goes through the door a different way every time, and just those little touches just take this game into another stratosphere.
And just the polish on it, like, there's no animation popping. It's so super smooth, blended perfectly every time. I mean, they just have their animation system down to an art, and I can't even imagine, like, what they have now after working on it for 2-3 years.
I always thought
blow your mind.
I always thought the voice acting was one of the things that really blew me away too.
Yeah, like compare it to like Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
Like if Heavy Rain had the performances of Uncharted, it definitely would be one of the best games I've played.
So Frank, this year, E3, Uncharted day and date release drop.
Oh man, it doesn't quite fit my template for that bomb, but I would love it if they jumped the release date and said.
I think you would leave work immediately and go
I
to
might.
the store.
Oh well, I would download it immediately anyway.
You'd simultaneously become ill and need to go home.
Yeah, be a little suspicious, but whatever.
All right, so quickly, any honorable mentions?
I'll go very quickly. Kid Icarus 3DS, Zelda Skyward Sword, Portal 2, Infamous 2, and I'm really excited for some new like motion gaming. It's kind of so for me, Child of Eden, and then I don't know if it's even this year, but Project Draco is supposed to be a Kinect game headed up by the one of the main guys from Panzer Dragoon. So
cool,
definitely excited for that.
Huck City?
I got two quick ones just that Frank didn't touch on. Deus Ex Human Revolution and Journey, which is Brought You Flower.
That looks cool too.
I have Retro City Rampage, which is a WiiWare game that's supposed to be coming out sometime this year, kind of another 8-bit throwback type game.
8 bits.
Spy Party, have you guys heard about this game at all?
No.
It's this indie game that's in development, and the idea, I guess, is that one person plays like a sniper, and it's like a multiplayer game, so one person's a sniper, and you're like, watching a party that's going on, and the other person plays somebody at a party who's trying to like... they're like
not to be human.
Yeah, they're like a saboteur, and they're trying to do something, but they're moving in a group of like computer controlled characters. So the one person's trying to figure out who the human person is in this whole group of AI controlled people, and so you have to accomplish things while not appearing to be human, which is kind of a pretty interesting concept. Kind of
liken it to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood multiplayer. Because you kind of have to blend in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I also had Zelda Skyward Sword on my list, although, I don't know, man. I used to be a huge Zelda fan, and I haven't even finished the last 3 or 4 Zelda games that have come out. Like, I'm kind of losing a bit of steam
Princess
on this.
Is so long.
I loved it. Oh.
Yeah?
Fucking loved it.
Waste of time.
Best week off work I ever took off.
And, also, I'll throw in Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP, which is this kind of strange experimental iPhone game that's being developed in Toronto at Capybara Games.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like the trailer is just so intriguing. Like I don't really know what it's about. It's some sort of adventure game, but the art style is like this cool pixel art, and like it just looks like unlike anything else I've seen. So
I did like Critter Crunch.
Yeah, and that was a good game as well. All right, let's run through a few more junk mails here. So this one is from Patrick. He says, "Hello there, Game Junkies. Just wanted your opinion on Clint Mansell doing the score for Mass Effect 3. Awesome news to me. Love both games, and I'm sure the third will be just as good. And have any of you played the Hitman games? Loved the first, and Blood Money. Looking forward to the next." So, Hitman, anyone?
Nope.
I played Blood Money a bit. Never. I think I did the first 2 levels. For me, it was a little too tough to like know what the ideal path was, and a little too much trial and error for me. But yeah, they seem like games I could be able to get into. I just didn't that particular time.
Yeah, I was watching a friend play one of the games once, and it seemed pretty cool. I don't know why I never really got into the series, but I just didn't. As for the Mass Effect 3 score, this is interesting. Like Clint Mansell is the guy who's done. He's done lots of movie scores and
Requiem for a Dream, a lot of Darren Aronofsky films.
Yeah, and so I guess it's interesting because it seems like there's more and more like movie composers starting to work on video games now, which is bringing a bit of credibility, I guess, to games as a place to do that. But I really think that's going to up the production value.
I actually really like the score, or like just the music vibe in the past 2 Mass Effects. It was kind of like that, like almost Doctor Who-ish type. Yeah, I hope he keeps it the same way. I'm sure he's like for example, like the main theme or from Requiem from a Dream or whatever is amazing. So the guy can obviously write cool scores and like gripping scores. So I don't know. All the power to him. I hope he doesn't fuck it up. I'll be pretty pissed. A lot of pressure, Clint. Don't fuck it up.
I was on the same boat with you, though. I thought it was pretty good to begin with, and this guy will obviously improve it or add to it.
I think the vibe was really good, but I wouldn't say like I don't remember anything from it. The only thing
more of the first game.
I remember the song from the credits from the first game the most out of anything in that game, specifically, like a melody wise. I remember like the boom, like it's just like that droning kind of sci-fi feel, which works, but I don't remember any music from it, which hopefully that aspect gets brought in. A little late though. Should have started that in the first game.
It's alright, they'll probably be Mass Effect 4, 5, and 6.
They didn't have enough money for the first game. All right, so this one's from Luke in Korea. We kind of talked about it on Film Junk, bringing it over to Game Junk just to continue the discussion. Although I feel like we've addressed this quite a few times. He says, Frank, like you, I'm an achievement whore, but I cannot shake the fact that these awards have no real-world value, meaning, or purpose. They get me to spend more time with the game, even ones I hate, like Fable 3, but they're really only there to appeal to our obsessive-compulsive sides. Nobody actually looks at them and goes, wow, he is an amazing person. What say you? Also, I tried adding Dirty Frank on as a friend on Xbox Live, but his list is full. Fuck.
Yeah, I've had a few friend requests, and I'm at like 96, so I can't say someone deserves to be on my list more than another. I wish, like, Microsoft needs to increase that limit. I think we can all agree.
That'll be the big reason to upgrade to the new next-gen console.
Yeah. But I do kind of disagree with what he's saying about how achievements like no one looks at them, they don't mean anything. I disagree. I definitely judge people by their scores, and like it means a lot to me. And
you won't associate with anyone?
Well, no, it's just like, well, your game score is 5,000. You can't be that fucking cool.
You wouldn't be talking to me right now if it meant that much to you.
I really don't care that much, but I do like that, achievements have me playing games on harder difficulties and finding out more and looking and like
I think it's
seeing everything. Yeah, like it's a way for
what people are playing.
True, exactly. It's awesome in that way, and it's awesome in. I used to play games, and I might not even see whole systems or aspects to the game. I'd play on easy, and just I beat that game. Time to move on to the next game. And achievements are a way to like, replay games and see everything they have to offer, and see again a way for a developer to showcase everything they want to be seen. That if you just play through the game, like it might not be obvious that. You could argue whether that's good or bad design, but sometimes it's just small stuff that's kind of cool, and now there's a way for them to point that stuff out and make sure gamers see it. And I also like that, although it's kind of achievement whoring, like sometimes you'll play a bad game for achievements, but it's kind of interesting. A lot of the times with bad games, there are cool ideas even in those bad games, and like time or money, they didn't get fleshed out, but you can draw inspiration from those games too, even if they're bad. So a lot of the times I might have like overlooked games that got bad reviews. Now when I take a look, I'm like, you know what? There are some interesting things here. It's like it's not a total loss.
Airbender?
Not quite.
Yeah, I think his point of view is kind of what when I first heard about achievements, that's how I reacted. I was like, well, what's the point of that? But now, like when I play games, when you hear that sound that you've unlocked something, it feels good. It's just an extra little reward for having
really good.
for having done something.
But and at the same time, I remember playing Geometry Wars and Pac-Man and some other stuff, and like it's cool when that high score is a motivating factor, and this is today's version of the high score, or like the motivating factor for playing games.
Yeah.
And it's like the way games have evolved to these more, story-based experiences. It's tough to bring that high score aspect, like who's the best at it, who's mastered that game. And I think it's marrying a very early fundamental part of gaming with this new way that you wouldn't necessarily think fits with scoring and stuff like that, but you can bring those two ideas together.
Yeah, that's true. All right, this one's from Colin. He says, I'd like for you guys to talk about systems that you never owned as a kid or adolescent, but wished you had, and whatever games that made you want them. I seem to recall Sean mentioning that he'd like to pick up a Virtual Boy, having never played one, and if you felt the same way as a kid. I ended up owning several, but I had no desire for it at all until Target started liquidating them in 1996 for $25, and Best Buy got rid of all their games at $1 a piece. Now it's one of my favorite systems of all time.
Yeah, I've been looking for a Virtual Boy on eBay. One of these days I'll bite the bullet, but...
Yeah, I mean, I want one. I don't think it's because I think the system's awesome or anything.
The controller was pretty... The controller felt pretty good.
Yeah, I have heard it's actually, it has some pretty cool games and stuff. But for me, it's just more of like a curiosity. It's just one of those weird things in gaming history that kind of got forgotten. And I didn't have a chance to play it when I was younger. But as for other stuff, Neo Geo is the one that always comes up when I talk to people because it was so expensive. And, you always had maybe one kid at your school who's like, had the money and had the system, and the games looked amazing. But, I
remember briefly wanting like a 3DO for Gex and some other
nice
bad games, but never pulled the trigger. And the TurboGrafx 16 portable, TurboGrafx Express.
That was
strictly
actually
for Bonk. Like, I remember Bonk was the one thing that I couldn't have.
Is that the only handheld system that was able to play the same as the actual full console?
The Nomad, the Sega Genesis Nomad, got released.
Really? I don't know if I've even heard of this.
It just plugged in Genesis cartridges.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's also something like that for the SNES. You could play Game Boy on it.
Right.
Yeah, but not the opposite. Like, the console goes into the portable.
Oh, I see.
And I was just remembering another, like, fucking Genesis, way ahead of its time. Like, talking about Kinect, and then I think it was Entertainment Alert, we saw or something online, the Activator. The Genesis had the Activator.
Yeah, which was basically
the predecessor to motion gaming. Yeah, like, poor Sega. Too much too soon.
Well, the iToy also. I mean, obviously Sega was before that, but the iToy is basically a shitty version of Kinect.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. But TurboGrafx 16 actually was another one that a friend of mine had it, and I played a bunch of games at his house, but I did actually want the system because after a while, like, it had some pretty awesome games, like Bonks was one. It had some good sports games. Blazing Lasers was a favorite of mine. I'm trying to remember what else.
Yeah, I remember for the longest time, like, I picked Genesis over Super Nintendo to begin with, and I hated myself for that. Like, my friends had a Super Nintendo, and the games were just getting so good. And I remember the worst period was up until the time where I finally bought a Super Nintendo, just wanting a Super Nintendo so bad. And when Donkey Kong Country came out, I was like, that's it. Fuck this. It's got to happen. Right now.
I do remember
But you had a Super Nintendo.
No, I didn't. That was the first... For the first three...
But you got it eventually, though.
Yeah, but...
You're getting away from the question.
I know, but I know the feeling he's talking about, and that was the feeling I had.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's so much better being an adult now and just... I'm going to go buy it right now. What the fuck? Like, that's the worst. I feel so bad for kids. I'm like, oh, you don't need that. No, I do need that. You don't know what that need is.
I always wanted Sega Saturn. I never knew anyone that had it, but they had Shining Force games on it. I think there was like a 3-part thing, and I was really big into the Shining Force games on Genesis. And when the Saturn came out, it was just like, I don't know, $500 or something ridiculous. And
yeah, my friends both bought a Saturn right when it came out, and that was something that jumped its release date by 2 months. All of a sudden, they just were supposed to come out in September or something, and they released it in August, and it was amazing. We're like, let's go get it. Like I remember renting it at Blockbuster first, but that was pretty amazing. Like playing Daytona for the first time on Saturn was an amazing feeling.
And the other thing I actually never owned was a DS. Actually, I've never had a DS, and I know there's like a ton of good games on it and like good RPGs on it and stuff. And
even more reason for you to buy a 3DS.
Yeah, I know. The wallet is feeling the pain.
Better pull the trigger on that one.
We all got to pull the trigger, right? Can we agree right now?
Might have to pull a Frank on this.
Day one?
No.
I'll let you buy it first, and then later that day I'll go
for the
back.
show, man. Do it for the fans.
Maybe.
I'll do it when some games come out. How about that?
It won't take much to twist my arm. I'll tell you right now.
I know.
Actually, one other thing. I remember wanting an Atari Lynx. The commercials that had the kid sitting in the toilet stall playing it, I was like, I need that.
The skateboarding game or surfboarding game or something?
I think it was California Games.
Yeah, oh man.
There's one more I wanted.
The Jaguar?
No.
I held the Jaguar controller once at a media play in the States. And I remember me and my buddy, we both held it. We're like, that feels pretty good. That's a good feeling controller. We were
My
pretty
last
impressed.
one was the Sega Master System, and only for one game.
Alex Kidd?
Michael Jackson
nice.
Moonwalker.
Nice.
That was it. That commercial had me hooked.
Oh, yeah.
Never played it. I don't think it was really any good, but the marketing worked.
I never got driven to the point of wanting a Sega Master System, but I always remember liking, you know how the Nintendo had Duck Hunt. What was the Sega Master System game? Jungle something?
I don't know.
I always remember thinking that one was a little bit cooler than Duck Hunt. Like, you got a lot more cooler animals and shit, and I think it's Jungle Hunt or some shit. I remember that definitely intrigued me. I was big into animals and killing them.
Okay. Next up, we got one from Falsk. I don't know if this has been discussed, but
I love this question, by the way. Let me just say, for the record, might be my favorite junk mail question ever.
Opinions on the renaming feature in games like Zelda or Final Fantasy. My boyfriend argues with me that it's supposed to be your name. That's why the prompt is there. But it seems almost sinful to rename Link. How could I? It's Link. These are things I think about. Falsk.
I agree. You don't rename the characters.
I always rename them.
Unless they leave it blank. If they have a default name, I accept the default name.
I'm with Frank, too.
No. You're supposed
to...
But maybe for Link it's a little different, right? Because, like, no one else gets named. But, like, in a Square game, you rename everyone. Like, it's just a mess.
I don't play a lot of Square games, so I guess I haven't had that issue. But usually
I could see renaming Link. I would not judge a person for that. Because they really kind of try to push it that it's you, right? And that's the only character in the the only one you rename. But yeah,
if you give me a chance,
like who changes the name of Cloud to something else in Final Fantasy VII? Nobody. Stupid.
Dwyer would.
Yeah,
maybe I would. Give me a chance to mess with the game, customize it, make it my own. I'm gonna take it. That's all there is to it.
Big thing why you wouldn't is like, especially like Frank was saying with like Final Fantasy games with multiple characters, you have a chance to rename. Like, if you ever want to discuss that game with someone, and
how do you refer to the character?
Like, hey, remember that time when
the huge cat with the thing and the megaphone that?
Yeah, the main character went out and did whatever. Well, do you want to say the main character or the chick with white hair? No, you want to just call her by the name, whatever it is.
Or looking up in a guide, trying to get a frame of reference if you ever,
Yeah, that is, I admit, that is a little weird for like a complex game with lots of different characters. I can't think of too many games where I've had that option. Like, I haven't played a ton of Final Fantasy games. Yeah.
It can be pretty funny, though.
Oh, definitely.
It's not without its merits.
I remember playing. Okay, here's a good story. It's going to sound so lame, but whatever. I remember playing a game on the Commodore 64 called LA Crackdown. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
sounds awesome.
Basically, you played a guy who just watched these surveillance cameras, and you just watched like bad guys, and you waited for drug deals to go down and stuff. I don't really remember what you actually did in the game. But anyway, you could type in, you could change what your name is, and at the beginning of the game, you get this letter saying, like, from the police commissioner saying, like, welcome back, whatever your name is. And I just remember typing in asshole with my friend, and when it came up, welcome back, asshole, we were just, like, at least 5 minutes dying laughter. It was amazing.
When I fired up Wave Race 64 recently, you could rename each of the 4 characters.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I remember, except for the girl, I can't remember. I think we named her Whore. But like, the one guy was S. Miyamoto. The other one was Cobra, because I remember being obsessed with the trailer for the movie Cobra, and that's it. And then finally, Arlo Pear, which was one of my favorite names, which is Richard Pryor's character's name in the movie Moving. And I remember in Uniracers, that's a great game for renaming, because they're just like colored unicycles. So naming those, I remember having a lot of fun with that. And it's kind of, I think I'd be more into it too, because like if we go bowling, like we spend the whole night just changing people's names in the computer. So that when they get a strike, it comes up as something funny. That's like, that's more fun than the bowling. So
that's true.
It's kind of
very true.
Another good game for renaming is Viva Pinata.
Yeah, I just find they die so often that the pinatas I name end up dying, and I'm like, fuck. I'm a breeder, a hardcore breeder.
Yeah,
I'm just
watching the romance.
No, I'm just trying to churn out as many I can, get my Master Romancer badge, and move on. You know, like I'm not trying to grow attached to these things. It's just fucking kill. I don't know. I just churn out some baby factories, and on to the next species. Maybe a little evolution here or there. You know, maybe tap them with the shovel a little bit, but I don't get too attached to my pinatas. And that's actually another aspect of Pokemon now, where I actually am finding I like to name my Pokemon when I get them.
And does it have a default name?
Just whatever species it is.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, this one's from the Ocean 85. He says, it's sort of a mix between film junk and game junk. I want to address something Jay has been saying. He doesn't see video games as art as much because all they try to do is imitate film, but I don't see what more they can do. TV is its own art form, but all it does is imitate film on a smaller scale. They're all a visual medium, so they share quite a lot in the way they can be executed. I don't think there's much more the video games can do that they aren't already doing. They certainly aren't breaking much new ground, but there sure as hell are some great games out there that can rival the great movies.
Well, you consider a painting art, right?
Yeah.
That's not doing what movies do. Like, you can get emotions out of things not just by, telling a story. And I think, like Jay has said this, but like, it's how you can translate inputting things into like an actual action. That's where the art is in video games. Like, not necessarily telling a story. Like, that's not even really what a movie. That's not what makes a movie an art, right? It's not the story that's the art. It's the presentation and the way it, like other ways it evokes emotion, or the way it tells a story. And I think with video games, it's more about like taking some concept of pressing buttons and creating a meaningful experience out of it, whether it is telling a story or performing an action that, is unique, and you get like a feedback of like success and reward. And, I don't know, like that's where it is for me. And I don't know, it could be a game with no story at all, like Tetris. Like, if I can see the art in Tetris.
Well, it's like you guys mentioned that game Flower, not
I was
not
just
so long
thinking
ago.
the same thing.
Like there are games out there that have no story, that are just a strange sort of interactive art experience. Like Electroplankton for Nintendo DS is just this weird series of like kind of mini games where you can just like play with graphics and sound and create weird stuff out of it. Like that kind of stuff, like obviously those are not ever going to be big blockbusters, but that's like an example of where you can do something that you could never do with film or TV. I mean, to compare film and TV, yeah, those are pretty similar mediums.
But even think about like, it's still, video games are still kind of in their infancy, right? Like,
yeah,
when movies first started, they were called moving pictures, right? Like it was just another step of pictures,
right?
And they started adding more and more to that. And we always say this, but a game like, in terms of telling stories and how like that art form can be affected, like Heavy Rain, like you can obviously see the potential there for like a totally immersive interactive story, and combined with all the technologies that are being developed, like 3D, motion, all that stuff, like really being a participant in a story at some point, like old 90s sci-fi movies and the idea of virtual reality, or like Star Trek and the holodeck, right? Like, I don't think those realities are that far off at this point. Like,
no,
we're getting closer to that.
That stuff will come. I mean, the Kinect is basically the next step in that evolution towards that. And I mean, I can see a future where we'll play video games that aren't necessarily even on a screen. So in that sense, we may get completely away from comparisons to movies because you're not even playing it on a screen, like whether it's like a VR helmet or like, the 3DS, the augmented reality games. That's a whole new type of game that's coming out that's going to completely, like, that's going to be completely unlike anything we've seen before.
And it's somewhere film can never go.
Yeah. So I think that's, you just have to sort of open your mind to like sort of the more obscure and stranger, more experimental video games that are out there.
And you could even take like that idea of augmented reality and think about just placing that in a way, like just walking around, like a pair of glasses that took whatever you were seeing and, I don't know, distorted it or did something like that. Like, that's a crazy idea. Like that's an artistic idea. Yeah. And I don't think we're that far off from that at all.
No.
And I think what you guys were touching on before is like the main thing is that film is just that. It's a picture on a screen. It's a bunch of pictures on a screen. Whereas right now the big disconnect is that people see that controller and they're kind of like moving something on screen and they don't really get it. But if you were to change that interaction device into something like you guys were talking about with like the VR helmet, or even, I don't know, something we've never come up with before, it's obviously going to change your perspective on, the media, like the game medium. It's not just going to be about what you see on the screen or what you see in the glasses or whatever. It's going to be this whole other level of interaction that will add to the art, and that means not just what you're seeing, but how you're interacting with, like the virtual reality, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think any of us are saying we don't want games that imitate film as well. Something like Uncharted does its best to sort of give you the experience of almost living out a Hollywood blockbuster, and that's awesome. But there's just so much more potential out there, too. So, okay, a couple more questions. This one's from Bard. Have any of you ever broken something out of frustration? Controllers, TVs, glasses, plates, bones, relationships?
I have not broken anything as a result of a video game.
Neither have I don't think. Although I do have a friend that has probably broken 5 or 6 controllers out of throwing them in frustration. All over NHL and
I've almost broken controllers out of celebration. Like when I beat someone and they're right beside me, I'll throw my controller in the air and jump on them or something, but like never out of frustration.
I've broken some joysticks back in the day.
Well, you were talking about Dead Space, like you almost broke some shit with that, right?
Yeah, and that's true. I have come close in modern game consoles as well, but definitely like Commodore 64 days, joysticks. I had many joysticks that rattled around because stuff was broken or they were cracked, and not necessarily just from me, but also from friends and my brother and stuff, and got pretty heated at times.
I think that kind of goes back to, the root of the frustration is that back in the day, those games were like not really well designed, right? There wasn't really like an art form to the design of a game. It was kind of like, what's fun? And you have like two coders sitting in a room making some game and then putting it out.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a shit ton of frustration that they put in the game probably on purpose that, is meant to frustrate you. And nowadays, I think frustrating moments are kind of like they try to take it into account when you make it. And they test these things so much, like it's more of an insult when they don't remove something that's frustrating. Yeah.
Right? Like, how could you not have seen that this sucks?
Yeah. All right, last question. This is from Mirror86 on Twitter. Could you guys talk about your experience in the game development industry, what you studied, and tips for getting into the field?
So, I can field this for a bit. It depends what you're interested in. There are a whole bunch of disciplines within the game industry. You can go sort of your programming, coding route, which is what all of us are right now. And to do that, you want to take a computer science degree or a computer engineering, maybe not computer engineering, software engineering degree. Probably at a university. I don't know if they have those courses at colleges. Probably in the States they have college degrees. And
you want to be good at math too, I think, is math, the big thing.
You definitely want to study your math up for that. Even for art, actually, you'd probably need to know some math. And also you want to make sure when you're going to actually apply, make sure you let them know that you like games. And if you don't get interviews or don't get callbacks or programming tests or whatever, try making a game on your own. That's the best way to, show that you're interested in making games is by just fiddling around, even if it's like some crappy 2D, side scroller that really doesn't do anything except animate Mario character on screen. It still shows that you took the time to try to figure it out.
Yeah, and I don't think it's ever been easier than it is now to just sort of pick up something and make your own game out of it. There's so many tools available out there right now.
And there's a lot of documents online. Even non-coders can, make games and make art for games and plug them in. Like, I mean, for any artist, Unreal Tournament, you pick up a copy of Unreal Tournament 3 and it's got the Unreal editor right in there for you. You can start playing around with all their materials and like textures and all that kind of buzzwords that some people probably don't know what they mean. But yeah, you can start fiddling around with all that kind of stuff, animation. So then there's a lot of other disciplines other than programming. You have sort of like background artists, which make like buildings, chairs, that kind of stuff. And animators and character modelers who do something similar to background artists, but more they do like the actual, Nathan Drake in the game. You also have music guys and designers, but two different types of designers. You have level designers who kind of plan the layout of a level, and then you have other designers who will do things like mission scripting and trying to determine, sort of like the flow of the game, what game mechanics are going to be in it.
Yeah, design's probably like the biggest, like,
question mark.
Like, thing to point down. How do you get good at it, and how do you get an entry position? Like, a lot of people in design start in different areas and work their way into design.
Yeah, there's no
based on their ideas.
Field to go into design other than designing your own games. Maybe putting your ideas on paper and not just like quick ideas. Like go into depth and write maybe a 10-page document with details.
Yeah, and there are some new programs that are like in game design and stuff like that at a lot of technical colleges and stuff like that. I don't know a lot about them, but like I think what you were saying more like making a game or using design, like editing tools and stuff like that. That's like everyone thinks design is just, coming up with ideas and spitting them out. Like there's lots of ideas out there and everyone in a company has ideas, but like the designers definitely have there's a lot of skills for implementing design and scripting and stuff like that. And that's kind of the side of designing that kind of gets lost. Like,
definitely,
you definitely need some technical experience. Like I'm sure there's some prodigy designers that, they're kind of just idea banks and stuff like that. For the most part, designers, have technical experience. They kind of understand a bit of everything about games. They play a lot of games, and they also have good ideas and are able to follow through on them. I think I remember reading once something about Insomniac saying, people with ideas are a dime a dozen. We can get ideas all day. The toughest thing is, getting stuff done and finding people who can, get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, and going back a bit to some of the more art disciplines, I mean, a lot of those, like, for the classes you'd want to take, definitely go to, like, a college that does either traditional animation or, like, even sculpting. Sculpting is now really handy for character modelers because the tools they use are things like 3D Studio Max, Maya, and a lot of what they do is actually more similar to traditional like clay sculpting rather than other different styles of art. I'm not very good. I don't know. I don't know exactly what degrees it is, but I know there's also like animation degrees, like animators can get their own degrees from certain colleges. So it really depends what you're interested in. There's also, if you like just like doodling, there's also concept artists, which would be like a really traditional sort of art background.
Yeah, and illustration and stuff like that. But
yeah, so that would be more like painting and that kind of thing.
To me, that's one of the most like impressive areas of game. Like when you look at concept art that gets released in, books and stuff, like concept art in games is really good, and the bar is really high for getting into that field. Like that's one of the tougher areas, I would think.
Yeah.
And concept artists are really good. Yeah, exactly. And that's a really tough area, and like the best people get into games.
Yeah. For sound, I don't really know. There's kind of like two different areas. There's sound effects, so like gunshot sounds, footstep sounds, that kind of stuff. And then there's like the whole music composition and score. I don't really know where you go to get either of those. I'm sure there's colleges with
there's definitely sound design and sound production programs
so
out
stuff
there.
like that. And then I guess there's also other artists that we would call effects artists. So they basically do all the particle effects sort of designed for the game. And I don't know, I guess that would be probably a similar style of art degree.
That's a pretty specialized one, though. I don't know if there's specific programs for it. I think a lot of those people either came from animation or
they got taught by someone else in the industry.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there is any sort of degree to teach.
Yeah, that's definitely an area I think that if you applied yourself and learned that stuff really well, there's a
big demand for it.
Yeah, I would think.
And then there's other positions like a technical artist where you have that sort of artistic view of the world and have that artistic background, but you're also really good at, writing, understanding, how textures and materials work behind the scenes, and you can write some basic scripting for like 3D Studio Max and Maya to give the artists more tools to work with.
That's another field I think where, there's not a lot of people out there that can do that, and they're extremely valued when they can bridge the art and the technical aspects. Yeah,
definitely. There are a few others that are kind of rare at some companies, like a writer, an actual writer that would do the story. I don't know of many companies that actually have writers on staff. I know like BioWare obviously has a couple and some others. And then the other one I can think of is... Oh, it just slipped my mind.
Producers?
Producers, I guess. Yeah, there you go. Producers basically run the show. They tell you, they kind of keep the schedule for the whole game and run it down. I guess a business degree would probably be a good thing to have for a producer.
Yeah, and like project management stuff and
project management.
I think that's it.
Oh, the other one I was thinking of is cinematographer. So if you want sort of like film-esque design, like program, if you're interested in film but also like games, you can be the guy who designs cutscenes, how they look, how they'll appear to the player. I know a lot of times you can take into account all the film sort of rules and stuff like that when you're doing cinematics, so that's also another role that people can definitely look at. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty good overview. The only thing,
definitely a lot.
The only thing I would add to that whole thing is there are a lot of these colleges out there that are offering courses and programs specifically geared to game design, and there's more and more of them coming out. You just got to be careful with them because some of them are not, they just want to take your money. They're not actually going to give
really
you...
They're expensive, too.
Yeah, they're not necessarily going to give you something that employers actually want. Like, I know for sure if you're in programming in that field, they prefer like a university or college degree over, something from one of these programs.
Definitely.
But I mean, it might be good for design or something like that because they give you a little bit of everything. So you just got to be careful.
If you're contemplating going into one of those schools, you might try just mucking around, like making your own game on the side with Unreal and I mean, there's a few other...
Even the new, like the StarCraft 2 engine that came out.
And I think there's even a few other engines out there. I can't remember which ones, but
there's lots of free engines too, like just small stuff, even 2D Flash stuff. There's tons of stuff for that.
I think there's an engine called Torque that you can use as well. I don't know if all of the tools are available to you, but I think the base engine is there. Ogre 3D, if you're a programmer, it's a sort of like render engine for you that allows you to render stuff out, like draw stuff to the screen. You obviously have to do everything else, but it's a good start since drawing stuff on the screen is one of the hardest things in programming to do and one of the most complicated. So definitely, there's definitely options out there.
It just goes to show like how many different types of people and how many different talented people go together to make a game. Like it's kind of crazy sometimes to think about how many different types of people there are and how important every one of them is to getting a game done.
Definitely.
All right. Well,
programmers are the most important.
Obviously.
No, just joking.
Without us, it's just a bunch of pictures on screen. Right?
Sorry, any artists out there, don't take offense to that statement. It was a joke. It was a joke. Okay. I am in awe of the artists that I work with.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the emails, guys, and of course for the next episode, if you want to get in touch with us, you can send it to filmjunk@gmail.com. That's going to bring us to the end of the show. I guess we can briefly list off stuff that's coming out over the next month or so. I'll just start with March releases. I know we missed some of the stuff that was in February, but Fight Night Champion is out now. Pixel Junk Shooter 2. Dragon Age 2, is that out? Or
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it's out today or yesterday. Or Tuesday. Last Tuesday. 2 days ago.
Patapon 3, also out this month. Nintendo 3DS is on the 15th.
25th.
Oh, 25th? Sorry. Homefront is March 15th. Topspin 4. And then March 22nd, Crisis 2 and Fear 3, I believe. And what else? Prince of Persia Classic Trilogy in HD and Tomb Raider Trilogy, also March 22nd.
That'd be a good retro review.
Yeah.
The original Prince of Persia.
March 29th, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2012.
The Masters.
And March 31st, Jurassic Park and Ghostbusters Sanctum of Slime, which is the Xbox Live game. And then looking into April, we've got Mortal Kombat and Portal 2 are kind of the big ones, and also Duke Nukem Forever. And that's...
SOCOM 4, I think, is in April.
Okay. So, yeah, lots of stuff coming out over the next little while. Next episode, we're talking about Killzone 3. Will most likely be the featured review. But yeah, other stuff. I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, maybe try and play a bit of that, talk about it. I'm planning on playing Bulletstorm at some point. And then Beyond Good and Evil, the HD remake just came out.
I'll probably get Torchlight too on Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah. So lots of stuff to talk about next time.
As usual, too much stuff.
Yeah.
Just can't do it.
So that's
Maybe we'll
about
try
it.
to be less than 2 months.
We'll try.
Doubtful.
Some of us are working 12-hour days. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Some of us, whoever that is.
So yeah, that's about it. Anything else before we wrap this one up, guys?
Nope.
All right. Well, you can stay tuned to facebook.com/GameJunk, and at some point I'll get something put up at GameJunkPodcast.com, and follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/FilmJunk, twitter.com/DirtyFrank, 3 R's in dirty, and twitter.com/MyAngryCommute.
Yep.
And until next time, see you guys later.
All I see is Killzone ads.
Where?
That's
Where are you
it.
seeing these ads?
On TV. That's all I see. I'm so sick of this Kevin Butler guy. It's the
What channels are you watching?
sports channels, I guess. I don't know. All I get.
'Cause I'm watching fucking TLC and DIY. And
Well, that'll do it.